Hey, everybody, I'm Mike.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Yuval.
Yes.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and we are live from our basements because we cover games from the ground up. Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday. We've got a guest with us again, and it's designer Yuval Grinspun. How are we doing tonight?
Excellent.
If you guys don't know, Yuval's got a game coming out very soon. I got to play it. Mike didn't. We purposely excluded him. We played it on Sunday, and Mike's been banned from it. But anyways, it was excellent. And that is the main reason we have Yuval on tonight specifically, but he seems like a pretty swell dude. We did talk to him at was it Gen Con last year? We talked to you for a bit.
Origins.
Oh, is it Origins?
Origins.
God, they merged together, honestly. Like
They
both
really
of those
do.
shows that we were so
I was
crazy.
at Gen Con too, but I definitely chatted. I find Origins a lot more suitable for actually having conversations. Yeah.
You don't have to yell, to get over the crowd noise. But yes, Yuval, thank you so much for being here. I've
my
been looking
pleasure.
forward to this.
Yeah, looking forward to chatting and hearing about what kind of space games you guys like.
Yes. We're going to real quick say hi to some of our regulars. Of course, Andrew is always with us. We got Evan with us. I even promised Yuval that he would be here, actually, and say hi. We have Andrew again. We'll have more. We got Wayne from the Beans and Dice podcast. Welcome, everybody. So Yuval, is this your first published design?
This is my first published
Awesome.
design. Yeah.
And your first published design is getting published by Burnt Island Games. That is awesome. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's 1 to 4 players. It's the setting is you are scientists. You've been studying this planet, the only other planet in the galaxy that harbors life. And as we're studying it, we discover a planet-killing asteroid hurtling towards it at breakneck speeds. It will take 4 to 6 rounds to arrive, in fact. That's how long. It's 60 to 90 minute asteroid, yeah. And you collectively have decided we need to save the planet, we need to save the life on this planet, but like good scientists, we can't agree on how to save the planet. So some people will decide on building a big laser to shoot the asteroid before it arrives. Others are going to work on an energy shield to deflect the asteroid. And then others are like, nah, neither of these plans make sense. Let's evacuate as much as we can before the planet's destroyed. And so, in fact, it sounds like it could be a cooperative game. It is nothing but. It is competitive. You are working on the different projects, trying to get yourself to be the most successful investor, if you will, of those projects. And then depending on which of those projects is successful, it will award more victory points. And so that's kind of the premise of the game. It's a combination of worker placement and deck building, although the deck building, we took a different spin, more of like a hand building where you get all of your deck at the start of each round. But that's kind of the gist of it. We
loved that, and we also freaked out at adding cards to your hand, how potentially expensive it gets to add cards to your deck. Except Bob had bought all of there's a spot on the board where you can upgrade your tech. And one of the techs you can upgrade, I know Yuval knows this because he designed it, but one of the techs you can upgrade is to make those cards cheaper to buy. Bob maxed that out and loaded up his hand. He had so many flipping cards. And I think I had 5, maybe 4. Actually, I had 4 because I had a card that like trash a card, do a thing. And but this game was super fun. It was fun sort of playing cocky scientists. I kept saying I do my own research, so that's how I know that this is the way we should do things. We did suggest maybe mounting the laser on a shark's head, but that didn't work either. But anyways, this game was super fun. Looking forward to it. So Yuval, how many copies do you think this is going to sell, and round it down to like the millions?
I mean, listen, first time designer, I don't really know what to expect. All I know is I want to get my copy. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I want to
For
get
sure.
my copy. I'm going to get a couple extra copies. I'm going to save them for my kids or whatnot. And I
Mhm.
just look forward to playing with my friends. And yeah, just honestly look forward to the first time I go to a convention and I just see it on a table somewhere and see other people playing it. It's really about that excitement. I have no idea what to expect around how many it'll sell. Hopefully more than
Oh
100.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
more than 100.
this game will do really well. It looks beautiful. You've signed it with an awesome company that's
Yeah.
got a really good track record. I mean,
Yeah.
we get excited. We get excited when we see stuff
Honestly,
coming from Sean and his crew. Yeah.
Yeah, like Burnt Island was the first company and only company that saw this game. Like I literally was when I was trying to think about, what did I want? Like first time designer, you want your first game to have a good impression, and art matters, visual design matters, component quality matters for those types of things.
Mhm.
And I had always really appreciated what Burnt Island had done with games, and so I just got really lucky. Like I reached out, I sent them the sell sheet, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll take a look." We doesn't look like, initially they, as all publishers are, they were a little bit cautious. They didn't want to get me too excited, but then we set up a play test and yeah, they signed it shortly thereafter. So no other publisher saw this. Yeah, it
That's
was one of those just
awesome.
lucky stories, I guess, because since then I can tell you, man, is it hard to pitch games. But yeah, that one was good.
So
I was going to ask you if you had pitched it to anyone else, because the first time designer first pitch getting signed has got to be a very rare story.
It sure is. Yeah, I feel very lucky and very fortunate for that.
So Evan, I'm going to break this down really quick just so we don't bury this comment. I apologize, Yuval. So gameplay, it's really very straightforward. On your turn, you basically can pick a few actions to do. You can place one of your landers in one of the spots, either on the moon or on the planet. Or you can play a card from your hand, which may give you an ability. There's also boost cards you can play that you can only play when they're triggered by something that you've already done. It can be a card you've played. It can be an action you've taken. And I feel like there's one other thing you can do that I'm forgetting.
You can just spend energy to move your worker if you're in the wrong. Yeah, if you're not liking where you are.
Move your lander between the planets. That's basically the game. Like it's very straightforward. Oh, there is a bag building element to this game, which is amazing. So there's like asteroid cubes in this bag, and then as you are doing those research projects, which are those tracks, which you talked about, evacuation, the planetary shield, or the laser, when you advance on those tracks, you're going to add cubes to the bag. And then depending on what round it is or depending on what happens, you're going to, at the end of the round, you're going to draw cubes out of the bag. And then you're always going to draw cubes out of the bag, but you might be populating the bag, and you're going to draw cubes out, one per player, I believe, if I remember right. And then, sometimes those cubes go up on the track, and sometimes they are making that meteor, that asteroid arrive even faster, which gets really stressful.
Yeah.
And that's the quick and dirty. I'm sure I missed a ton of stuff, but
yeah, I went into it wanting to design the type of game that I really like, which are sort of medium to medium heavy weight games, set in space. I won't foreshadow what my number one game is for later, but you can probably guess based on that, those parameters. But and so that's sort of where it landed. Like you have the worker placement, or now landers. That was like there from the beginning, basically, that concept where you have workers spread between two planetary bodies, or there's basically the planet and the moon, and your workers on the planet can go to the worker placement locations on the planet. The workers on the moon can go to the worker placement locations on the moon. There's ways of moving the workers around, but they're kind of constrained based on where they are. And then layering on top of that, really wanting to find a way to bring in the card interaction with the spaces. Now, I designed that part before I'd ever played Arnak or Dune
Oh, sure.
Imperium, because since then I've gotten asked, was I like trying to make something different than those? And I was like, no, it just happened that I made something different because I hadn't even heard of those games at the time when I started that part, or when I was designing there. So, yeah.
And also I really like, everybody's got their own player board, and you've got this resource management aspect of it where you're adjusting your income levels. So you're raising them up. So you're going to get more resources each round. That felt like really good too, because it wasn't like too hard to do. And then at the same time, then if you even just did like a halfway okay job, you had plenty of resources to do what you needed to do. But I did there were a few times where it's like, oh, I'm so close. But what I had done, I had set myself up really well, because the farthest to the right little resource track is Ingenuity, and that's like a wild resource. And I had early on got this card which raised the minimum for that and gave me a resource. And then I had the boost card that was like, gain an additional resource of the one you just gained. And it's like boop, 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 boop. So I had plenty of wild, so I had a lot of flexibility to do stuff. But it was Mike hates games that have like combos and things like that, and this game felt very like combo-rific. Yeah, he hates bag building games. He doesn't like any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, we had a really good time with that. Thought it was really neat. I haven't played it. You know what's funny is Dune Imperium and Ardak did not come to mind at all when I was playing it. So it's interesting, and obviously people, now that you say it, I can see where people can kind of draw some of those conclusions. But like, this felt like
the combination of mechanisms. Those are the games that people think of now, right? In terms of if you tell anyone, oh, it's a worker placement and deck building game, that's where their mind goes. But yeah, it's a very different experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and again, your deck building design, I've never played anything like it. I thought was really cool because you can play as many of your cards as you have the opportunity to or want to, but you're going to get them all back at the end of the round. Like your whole deck just comes right back to your hand. Now we say deck, but it's like 5 cards.
Yeah. Full credit to Alara Cameron, who is the developer, for sort of iterating on and bringing it to that level. Like I think going in when it started was when I handed it over, it was traditional deck building.
Sure.
And then when I sort of came back to it, once it had been with Alara for a few months, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's so much better.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And then the cost of the cards, we afterwards later on we then adjusted to where the cost of the cards is based on that all the cards have the same value per se, but that the more cards you have, the more expensive it costs. You basically are paying one resource, or the cost is tied to how many cards you own. So the first card is cheaper, and then it gets progressively more painful and expensive, right? And I think that came from Josh Capel, or it was a communal. Somehow we landed on it through one of the playtests. But again, it was one of those that once we had that, it was like, no, that's what it has to be. It's a natural boundary without that it creates itself as a natural boundary rather than us forcing, okay, you're not allowed to have more than 10 cards in your deck. You can have more, it just gets really expensive.
Let me just say thank you, because I think Bob and I are big deck builder fans. Bob's one of our co-hosts, and he was so obsessed with like buying cards, and he's dedicated so much to that. And I stayed nice and lean, beat the pants off of him. And he got because that boundary, I think that boundary and that restriction to make it so, because that's the thing is initially it's like, I want all of these cards. All of these cards are really good. I found 2 that worked, and I just kind of built a little engine around that, and it worked really well. Bob got greedy, had to have like 10 cards in his hand, seriously. And he lost. I don't know, Dave, I haven't played it at 2. Let's ask Yuval.
So honestly, 2 is great. If you pull up the map again, or the picture again, Mike, I can sort of explain how the game is played at 2 that's slightly different. It's a very small tweak that has a huge impact in a very positive way.
Oh, I see what you did there with the impact.
Basically, the worker locations on the planet on the moon, They kind of have 2 worker locations at each site.
Sorry,
And
this
with
is
when you play at
weird.
2, as soon as one of the 2 spots at each of those sites is occupied, the whole location is taken.
Mhm.
So, like in a traditional worker placement, you go to and only one person at each work spot. Here, it's kind of like one for each of those paired up spots. Yeah, so right there, you can see, if you go back one, you see at the
Yep.
bottom there, you can collect blue, the mineral resource, that's those blue circles, and there's kind of 2 locations there that you can go to if you're playing 3 or 4 players. But if you're 2 players, as soon as one of those 2 locations is taken, the other one is blocked off. And that creates a really, again, natural tension and the type of race and acceleration that you'd want in terms of, if I need blue, do I need to go try to predict when you're going to go there, if you're or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really good. It's a shame Mike will never get to play it.
Well, for those that are wondering, of course, it does hit Kickstarter May 21st. We are going to, hey, there you go. We're going to stream the Tabletop Simulator Sunday, May 19th. We'll pick a time, but that is the Sunday before this drops on Kickstarter. We're going to play through the whole game. So if you want to see how it all plays, stay tuned. We're going to have Yuval back, and we're going to check this out live for you guys. So,
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you, I'm going. No pressure. I'm not sure. I think I'm playing with you, Mike. I'm not sure who else is coming, but no pressure.
Probably Bob.
But I think I've played now with 2 or 3 different reviewers, and they've all beaten me. So the pressure's on because I'm looking for a win.
There's blood in the water. Bob is really mad that he lost, especially to me. So he probably went to the prototypes at the studio right now because our editor shoots B-roll and stuff. Bob's probably going in there like Catherine Zeta-Jones in in the cat suit, and he's like dodging lasers trying to get to that game so he can get it home and practice.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. Bob in a cat suit definitely is in a oh no.
Bob is also the one I told you that the week of QSCon we're going up to Toronto, so he's the one that'll be joining me for that trip. Amazing. And then we'll be at QSCon that week. So looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So I am curious. I want to get into your origin story. How'd you get into games, and then how did that turn into designing games?
Sure. How did I get into games? I mean, I've been playing games since I was a kid, right? Like traditional Risk, Monopoly, that kind of stuff. In university, I got really into doubles chess or bughouse chess. And then sort of at the tail end of university, which would have been early 2000s, it's when I, just like everyone else, met Catan, and the rest is history. Just played more and more games. My wife's family was into games, but they had a lot of older stuff, but then I started to bring some newer stuff to them, and we played a lot of games there. My friends have always kind of been quick to try all of the new stuff that I pick up. Around, I want to say around 2010-ish, like 10, 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I started playtesting for this guy named Eric Lang. You might have heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
He's designed 1 or 2 games. He is a Torontonian as well. And I started playtesting some games for him. And so that was probably my first seeing behind the curtain, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening and how do games come together. I played a very broken version of Rising Sun, and I played very broken versions of other games, and also very good versions of other games too, but enough to be like, okay, there's nothing magical here. You have to put in the work, you have to put in the creativity, you need to be willing and able to take feedback and learn from that. And so like learning, like watching him work, watching Peter, like I play tested for Peter Hayward a bunch. And then here in the Toronto scene, Reed Mascola, I think you guys know.
Oh, love Reed. Yeah, he's our guy.
We've co-designed a lot, like just stuff and test each other's stuff. And, just working with other designers, you sort of just learn what works. I started, but probably my first design, I started 6, 7 years ago. It was like a kids game, which I designed with my kids. And it, didn't go anywhere, but I think it's a great, fun little game. And since then, I've just been dabbling and sort of on the side doing some designs here and there. And then during COVID, I hadn't really pitched anything. I did pitch that one kids game before COVID. But I hadn't really taken any other designs really far enough to warrant. And so during COVID, at one point I was like, I need to do stuff. I need to feel productive at all times. And I had learned the ukulele, and I had learned to bake bread, and I had created and launched an online escape room, and I was like out of things to do. And so I was like, I want to make a game, and I want to get it published. I want to buckle down, take one of my ideas and get it published. And so I at that point I was like, well, what game do I really want to play? And I had the skeleton of this. 50% of this game was in one game, and like 30% was in another game. And I had an aha moment where I was like, no, that's what I need to do. I need to put these two pieces together, and then the rest is history. Like,
now you got peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I wonder why you picked Top Space Games. I wonder why. What's funny is I told you, of course, we've had Reed on the show.
Yeah.
And the first time he was on the show, he picked Top Space Games. But it was like over a year ago. And it's like, honestly, it's like there's so many good ones that come out every year. You could honestly redo this like every year, I feel like. There's always so many good ones coming up.
And I mean, Reed and I play a fair bit together. We design together. We're friends, right? And I had no idea that was his list. But yeah, that's quite the coincidence. I guess that explains why we're friends. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason. Just that. Yeah. Nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
No, I love Reed. He's such a nice dude. I mean, I guess it just goes with being Canadian. And that's the only reason he's nice. But no, he's so nice. We were really excited, and I guess it helped that we loved Vigilante like a ton, and then also we really loved Catnip Auction House. And then when we got to start, like, because we had only had sort of like email and text conversations, and then we got to start seeing him at conventions and hanging out with him at cons and stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. At various points, we've tried designing stuff together, and like we have so many ideas. It's like one of those things you have to put. It's easy to come up with like the first 30% of the game, and then the rest is grinding and just getting the work done. And I don't think we have it's like, where do you put your time? But yeah, one of these days, I'm sure we'll get one of those designs out there.
What you got to do is like lock yourselves in a house for like a weekend. You know what I mean? Like remote, without distractions, and then you can just
quit your job,
drill down into it. Yeah.
Quit your job, quit your family, just focus on this. This priorities, right?
Exactly. That's what I tell my wife all the time. Like, look, I've got a show to do. No, I can't hang out with my children.
Honestly, I love my kids are co-designers on many projects. They're a great source of inspiration, and my dream is at one point to have one of the games that we've worked on be published, because I think some of them are really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So no, I truly kid in all that, because I do really, I mean, this game here probably wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for my youngest willing to play test the earliest versions, which were very broken, and keep showing enthusiasm and being like, this is the best game ever. Which he
Yay!
says about every game I design, but
Hey, he's
Yeah,
bound to be
so-
right eventually.
exactly.
All right, so we do have some space games to jump into, but this is the perfect segue since you were talking about your kids. You said that your name was Full Circle. So Junior Piggy, what is that all about?
Right. So when I was like probably my eldest's age, like 16, that would have been like the 90s. Did you guys ever use internet relay chat, IRC?
Uh-huh.
So I would spend many hours on IRC, and at one point I don't even remember what, like, me and some of my friends on there landed on like a whole string of piggy names because of Pigs in Space.
Muppets.
Muppets, Pigs in Space, and I was Junior Piggy.
Nice.
I never really used that since then, but as soon as I was on, like, having to think about what I was going to put in my nickname here, and I knew we were talking about space games, I was like, see, it's like it's in my DNA. It's like
perfect.
I'm a pig in space.
Pigs in space. Yeah, I loved that. I loved that bit. As a kid, that was one of my favorite like Muppet Show bits. I don't know why. I don't know that I understood the jokes. Like I go back now and I watch old Muppet Show episodes with my kids, and they're laughing for other reasons that I'm laughing. Like it's so good. So good.
Nice. All right. So I think we have some space games to get into, don't we?
We do. We do.
Okay.
I went hipster with my list. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I tried to do almost all completely different games compared to what we did last time.
Oh wow.
Now that being said, I couldn't find my list last time, so I'm going off of memory, which is foggy at best.
Oh my God, I don't know what I did last time. I really don't.
Well, it was over a year ago. I know, right? So
I don't know if I got it written down. I mean, I'm sure I have it written down, but
well, the question is, yeah, if you came up with a completely different list, like, are you going to argue against your old self?
Oh yeah.
Well,
no, I am a walking contradiction. I have no problem having it.
We kind of cycle these around a bit because we end up talking about a lot of the same games. So there's definitely some of trying to get new stuff talked about sometimes. So there's definitely going to be some things on here because I've played them more recently than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't totally remember that list, so I don't totally have a way to compare. So
Oh my gosh.
All right, we ready to do this? Usually we start with Tim. He'll get it started, and then I'll finish it.
Okay.
Tim, are you still figuring out what your 5 is?
No, I've got my 5. I was
trying
to find my. Well, I did. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. Mike, you were so close.
Well,
we should have said.
You warned me that I needed some honorable mentions. Did you want to?
Oh,
are we starting with the honorable mentions, or are we starting with the, like, in what ranking? What's the order that we're going for?
We'll start with 5, work our way to 1, and then what I've got. Basically, I always have extras because if Mike says one that's on my list, I'm going to swing mine out, that one out, and I'll pop in something else.
Got it.
Because
cheat a little.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I just want to talk about these games. Like I'd love to talk about all of them. So
more games.
I'm very happy to just throw in, like let's talk about as many different exciting kind of games. Ooh, I found mine. I found my list. So my list from last year or last time, number 5 was Forbidden Stars. Number 4 was Quantum. Number 3 was Star Realms. Number 2 was Twilight Inscription. And number 1 is Xia Legend of a Drift System.
Wow.
Those are all still alternates, but
wow.
I've got other ones that I'm gonna go with.
Of that list, I've only played Star Realms.
What?
And it's not on my list here because honestly, I prefer Hero Realms.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I kickstarted Hero Realms when it first came out.
Oh,
Tried
yeah.
to play it like twice. I still have the stuff for it, but I haven't ever gone back to it. I just don't know I don't know that I ever gave it its fair shot, to be honest. I think I blind backed it because it's like, well, I love Star Realms so much, but oof,
All right,
spicy
Tim.
list.
Let's get this started off with your number 5.
Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going total indie. Like I said, I've got my hipster list. My list is going to have a ton of games that people have probably never heard of, or if they have, it's because they've watched the show and we've talked about some of these games. But let me just say, first off, this guy right here, Solar Titans.
Oh, wow.
So in this game, you were literally, so when I was a kid, like I would draw like spaceships and I would draw guns on the spaceships and I draw like lasers, like and missiles and like blow up the ships. Like there's like a battle and I'd be like erasing parts of it.
Yeah.
This game is like basically doing that with like cards. So you're lining up your ship against your opponent's ship, you're building it out, and then you start shooting at each other. And if you don't have like the appropriate shields, like parts of that ship are coming off, you have to repair it. It's really cool, really fun. And just a little indie publisher. They had a successful Kickstarter. This was Sunny Side Up Games.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loved this game. It was really fun, really good. And nobody knows about it because it's just like a little thing. But man, Solar Titans, I really liked it. We had a great time
If
playing.
I remember correctly, Tim, didn't that game just start as like they were just tooling around with something their game group would enjoy, and then their game group is like, no, you should get this published.
Maybe that might be them. But yeah, super good. I mean, it plays in under an hour. You know, the rules are pretty straightforward. Yeah, see, Bobby remembers. I can't remember if Bob and I were on the team that game or not, but I'm pretty sure I won that game, which is rare. So that's why I remember when I win. It's like, oh, I won that one. But yeah, Solar Titans, number 5, Sunny Side Up Studios.
So my number 5 is a game that I had like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and then I traded it away, and I've lived in regret since. Deep regret. It's out. I think it might have been reprinted, so I can probably get another copy. It's called Space Alert.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
It's a co-op, and it's basically you're programming your units to move around. Everyone is programming their units to move around on the ship, trying to deal with like impending disaster, basically. There it is. Yeah. Check games. I think it might have been the first game that I played. It had an app, if I remember correctly, for like or a timer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lots of fun.
That's a Vlade Chvátil, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Nothing like any of his other games.
Yeah.
I never did get to play this one.
I've never played. It's always like been on my radar because it's like it looked really cool, and then I never knew anybody that had it.
It's co-op Robo Rally set in space. It's glorious.
Nice.
I love it. I love it.
That is pretty great. Yeah, I wanted to play this one for so long too. Wow. I gotta try this one.
Oh, I don't know if you saw that comment, but there you go.
Bob.
Played your game on Sunday.
Yeah. Glad you enjoyed it.
Okay. Like I said, it's a shame that Mike's never going to get to play that.
Yeah, I'm just going to fumble. I'm actually just going to narrate when we do the tabletop stream. Somebody else will take my turns. I'm just narrating. I was like, ooh, good move, I think. Space Alert from 2008. I love it. Starting with an older one.
Oldie but a goodie.
All right, so I'm going to go with a slightly older one than 2. I was kind of torn on what was going to be my number 5. I kind of had a few different options here. Let's go with the 2011 Social Deduction release because I just never have been able to get enough of Dark Moon. So Dark Moon, Battlestar Galactica Express. Evan Derrick design, Stronghold Games. My first gaming group, I met these people when One Night Ultimate Werewolf had just come out. And I was still a relatively new gamer at the time. It was about 10, 11 years ago. And I was enjoying this. I'm like, wow, this is actually kind of wild and crazy and fun. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a social deduction game and bring it to this group. And this was the one. And there's just something about this game. It does an excellent job of making everybody paranoid from the onset because you are working together to fix a ship and you have to submit positive dice onto the board to successfully repair parts of the ship that are getting damaged. The thing is, though, is that these dice are loaded against you. 4 of the 6 sides are negative, so it is statistically more likely that you will be putting a negative on that board. And yet, every time you do it, everybody goes, "He's got to be infected."
Traitor.
And I love that. The suspicion just starts right from the get-go. It has very tense moments. You can have some really epic reveal turns if you're one of the infected and you reveal and you get to use all of your reveal powers in one turn. It's a lot of fun. It's really good actually, it's even pretty good at smaller player counts. I've played it at 3 or 4 and it still worked fairly well. But anything 5 and up, and you're just going to have a blast with it. And this is still to this day one of my favorite social deduction games. So I had to keep it on my list, even though I haven't played it in a long time. I keep bringing it places, and I don't get it played, but I want to really bad.
Yeah, Dark Moon is great. I have something to say about it, but I'll say it in a few spots.
Yeah. I know what's happening. I know what's happening here.
Okay. I remember we definitely had a conversation. That was on my list with Reed as well, because I remember he said he was a fan of that one. So I wouldn't be surprised if it made your list, because I think it was on. He at least had it as an honorable mention. I do remember that. All right, Tim, what you got? What's your number 4?
All right, I'm staying deep in the hipster trenches real quick. Small indie publisher, Solus Game Studios. It's a lane battler. I play and have played for like over a year. Marvel Snap on my phone. I love, and I played on my iPad. I love Marvel Snap.
Uh-oh. We haven't had that happen in a while. This used to be an issue. We fixed the glitch though,
because I'm a comic book nerd. I'm back. What's crazy is I never lost sound. Usually when I buffer that bad, I lose sound and I don't hear anything. Anyway, so I still play Marvel Snap a lot. So when a game came out that was a lane battler card game, I was like, sign me up. I'm talking about Space Lion. So Space Lion, super cool. Oh, Mike, you knew what I was going to say.
I did.
Did you play this one with us, Mike?
I did. It was good.
Yeah. So you've got like these different factions that you're going to play from. You kind of get like everybody's got, a asymmetric deck of cards, and you're allowed to like upgrade one of them. So you're going to pull one of them out and you're going to put in like the super powerful version of it into your deck, but nobody knows which one you take. And then those cards all have like a value on them, and then like most of them have like a special ability as well. And so you are battling with your neighbor to your left and your right, and you're also committing to the lane in the middle. So you've got 3 lanes that you're potentially dueling with, and so you're just going for points. If you win the lane, at the end of you can commit cards face up. So some of them have an ability when you play them face up. Some have an ability when you reveal them, so they have to be played face down. Sometimes you can like that card doesn't turn over, so that card is just there. Remove cards, move cards to a different location. So there's all different kinds of ways to like manipulate the battlefield. Manipulate the lanes. But just really cool, great looking game, great components. The art's really neat. All of the factions feel very unique, and it literally has space in the name, so it has to be a space game. But yeah,
I
Space
did not
Lion.
get to play Pocket Paragons, which is the universe that this is based on, but
Mhm.
this one was really fun. This one felt unique.
I enjoy Pocket Paragons quite a bit, but I don't consider that a space game. I feel like that's like there's some factions that are sort of sci-fi ish. You know, where Space Lion, I feel like the places you're going for are almost like planets you're trying to take over. That might actually be what they are. I just don't remember. But yeah, I dig it quite a bit. Really good. So Space Lion, number 4.
The upgrading mechanic was really fulfilling when you see the powered up version of one of your cards. It's always a
Yeah.
cool moment.
Yeah.
My number 4 is also my also my favorite 4X game, I would say.
Yeah.
But it is not Twilight Imperium, which is what
Yes.
Eclipse
It's that
New
other
Dawn
one.
for the Galaxy.
Oh no, Mike!
Eclipse New Dawn for the Galaxy is just wonderful. It's long, but it's epic, and it's a space epic, and I love it. I like I think they do a really good job with a lot of parts of it. Like the research piece is really cool. I think how you're putting influence down across the board in different locations, but the more influence you put down, basically the more expensive it is, the less actions you end up being able to take, if I remember correctly. The whole as resources, as you are using the resources, there's a greater upkeep. Like there's just lots of really neat elements. The asymmetry is fun. I've been able to get this to the table once a year.
Nice.
That's the only downside, I would say. It's like it
Mhm.
does take quite a bit of time, just like all of the other sort of games in that genre. But my teenager is into it now, and so basically once a year, it's coming up, we go to a cottage for a week, and usually while we're there, we'll break it out. We'll have a few friends over, and we'll get a good long game of Eclipse in. You had it queued up. Is that because it was one of your favorites too, or
No, what do you
kind of
think of the?
expected it. Usually, if it's not Twilight Imperium, it's Eclipse, and it's like the grand. It's one of those granddaddy space 4X games. I actually finally played it for the first time last year, and it was like I was playing stubborn, but I had some really bad exploration tile draw that also segued into me being stubborn about fights and never retreating. And even though I'm underpowered, just going headfirst into a battle and sticking until somebody is completely decimated, which is a terrible strategy. So I played terribly. So it wasn't a great first experience. I want to play it again. But it was not a great I just it was rough for me the
yeah.
first time.
I think that kind of sounds a little bit like my experience of Twilight Imperium. I've played it twice, and both cases it was like if you get stuck, next to players that are particularly vicious and all, there can be a little bit of king making almost happening if they're like just worrying about conquest and not actually, yeah. I have not tried they came out with it was Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy, basically a
Yes.
second iteration, a second version,
Mhm.
which I think they addressed or they fixed a couple of the issues with the original, which was like one of them was like you could just load up your ship with like missiles, and basically you get, depending on the type of weapon that you have, you get to roll your dice and cause damage to the other ship before they get to roll. And so if one person was able to unlock the that missile tech early, they could just load a ship up with missiles and basically destroy everyone else before they get to shoot back. So I'm pretty sure they fixed some of those things. I mean, you could also house rule some of those, like you can only put one missile on your ship or something like that, is what we ended up doing.
That was the version that I played, and they also the trays that they included in this version, just they really knocked it out of the park with the storage solutions
Yeah.
and how the player trays work and how they track your resources. I'm actually trying to find a picture of that, and for some reason I figured it would be very easy to find, and I'm not finding it.
And I think that, like, at least for me and my game group, they were probably one of the first to really utilize recessed player boards in a meaningful way. Like we're talking, when was the original one? Like 2011. So yeah, like they utilize that stuff pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so here's one shot of the new version with just all of the tech upgrades you can buy. There's so many different techs you can buy for your ships and everything. And that was where I struggled, was just again with bad exploration draw. I was just not getting the resources I need to buy the techs that I wanted. So I was just, yeah, it was, like I said, it was rough. It's almost unfair for me to judge the game from that play. It was so rough. But I do want to play it again and redeem myself.
Yeah.
Because I love the whole tech idea, and how many upgrades you can add to your ships, and the customizability of it's really fascinating.
Well, and then once you unlock that tech and you sort of put it into the schema, all of your ships have that, which is kind of neat.
Definitely. All right, so my number 4, this is a 2023 release, and this one just really, really got me. There's certain things I like in games, and when they're executed well, I love those games. And Lunar Rush executed on some games. It's kind of funny because this game's not very thematic at all. It really could be. It could be like it could be any rush. You're essentially shipping goods to the moon and back from the moon, and you are trying to basically sell them in a market. But what makes this game interesting is the timing of those goods. You are bidding for what ship you want to put your goods on, and then those goods are going to go up to the moon, and the timing means it could show up in 1 round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds or 4 rounds. And if you're the highest bidder, you get to pick how soon your resources are available. And so every round you're kind of timing it like, okay, I've got these resources coming in 4 rounds from now, so maybe next round I bid for the 3 round ship, and then I've got even more resources coming in round 4. And you're using a variable market, similar to like a Clans of Caledonia or a Raccoon Tycoon, where the more you sell, the more it goes down, the more you buy, the higher it goes up. Except in this one, the market fluctuation, actually, there's different versions of them. So I think that's one thing that would add a lot of replayability to this game, is the market in this game isn't just a straight curve. It actually fluctuates depending on which board you choose. I just found this one really good. I love games that have a timing element to them. And I have to time, I can have a big turn if I time my next 2 or 3 turns correctly. Then my 4th turn is going to go bam, all this stuff at once, selling it at peak market value and that sort of thing. It plays quick. It's hour 20 minutes at best when you've got people that know the game. It just feels really good, and I like medium weight economic games quite a bit, and this one really hit a home run for me.
Yeah, I've never heard of this one. I'm gonna have to look it up. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
Dead Alive Games published this one, and I think that was their big one from last year. They've currently got Cyber Pet Quest on Kickstarter right now. But
that's got like 2 days
this
left.
one, I put this one as one of my hidden gems of 2023. I don't think enough people talk about this one. It's a really good game if you like timing, the market, and that sort of stuff. Alrighty, Tim, you got a number 3 for us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My number 3, I love games that build tension and anxiety and nobody can trust each other. And no, I'm not talking about Dark Moon. I'm talking about Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Everybody has their own dry erase board. You're on you've got a map and you are basically calling out coordinates when you move. I went here. Are they lying? Are they telling the truth? You can play a card where you can not have to announce like that you moved to a sector. You can lie. There's just all kinds of things you can do. There's like 2 aliens and then everybody else are humans. And so they basically, you're running around until you're like, well, I attacked this space. So like, oh no, Mike's an alien. He's been an alien the whole time. I thought, and so everybody's trying to get out to these escape pods. One of the escape pods is bad. So you get to there, you might draw a card and it's not good. It's already gone. And so you got to run all the way across the other side of the map. It's really crazy, really fun, really tense. And you got a book full of maps. So everybody just picks, we're all going to play on this map. And then you go.
So everyone has their own map it's the same map.
Yep. It's a little flip book, like a dry erase flip book, and you're tracking where you're moving. And then you can like keep notes, you know what I mean? Like where you think people are and where they're going. Because even if you're a human and you're just trying to escape, you still want to kind of know where other people are because you don't know if they're alien or not. And the aliens move basically like twice as fast as the humans do. So it's really stressful because they're all over the place. And so, yeah, this game is wild. And also this is one of those kind of games where when it's all done, everybody's like, okay, so I went over this way and then I went this way and then I ran all the way over here. You know what I mean? Everybody has a lot of fun with like sort of the debrief and like how it all went down. When you get killed, you die, but you become an alien and now you're hunting the other humans that are left. So there's no player elimination.
I just figured out why Tim likes this game so much. It's right here where it says, hungry for human flesh.
Listen, that's a coincidence. I don't know what you're talking about. I do have it. It's right over there. It's that nice black Ultimate Edition. But it's really good, really fun.
This one before, and I think you're literally the only person I've ever heard talk about this game.
Have you played it with us, Mike? You haven't played it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this game's super fun. I mean, you've got to like that kind of
party game, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty light, but you really want to make sure everybody. There's a couple of quirks and some nuances to it, and you want to make sure everybody understands those like pretty well before you go, because you don't want to be like, well, if I play this card, you're like, no, because then it might reveal what you are, and you don't want people to know what you have. Right. But yeah, it's just a fun sort of, we're all like beer and pretzels, bullshitting kind of game. Yeah, Bobby likes it.
It sounds fun.
Yeah,
I want to check this out. This sounds
super fun.
Yeah, it does.
Oh
and
yeah,
I'm always on the lookout for like good like party games, flexible player count.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it plays up to 8.
Yeah.
Must get really chaotic at 8.
It's so stressful because you're like,
who can I trust?
Nobody. I don't ever trust anybody when I play, even when I'm the alien. Yeah, so it's super fun.
It's a little like Among Us, but before Among Us.
Correct. It does.
Maybe that's inspired Among Us.
It does give you that vibe, man. It really does give you that vibe because you're just running like, okay, I might go through here. I attacked this one. Oh, I was just there. Like, is anybody in that spot? So you call out when you're attacking. So then everybody knows. But humans, it's possible for them to get a weapon and then they can attack the alien, like potentially, but they could kill another human, which is also really bad. So super
Very
fun
cool.
game. Super
Probably
fun
add
game.
that on my wish list. Yeah. My number 3 is the predecessor to Mike's. Was it your number 4, number 5? You said Dark Moon.
Oh,
the original is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, boy.
Honestly, I have both, but I would never choose to play Dark Moon, even though it's a little shorter. Battlestar Galactica is much richer. On top of that, you have the IP and the theme, and you can yell out "you frackin' Cylon" at random points and get really into it. Basically, the premise is, everyone's on the ship on Galactica, and hidden amongst you there may be or may not be a Cylon. Cylons are basically the imposters. They're trying to sabotage, but you're if you only had to worry about that, then the game would be easy.
No
Because
doubt.
the game itself is throwing problems at you. You're dealing with crises every turn. There are also the Cylon chips are all around that are shooting at you. And so you're running around. Basically, on your turn, you get to do an action, and then then you flip a crisis card, and the crisis usually leads to some Cylon actions and stuff like that. Or I should say the game actions. But then at some point, someone will be a Cylon guaranteed. Once they've caused enough damage, or if they want to go out with a bang, they can reveal themselves. They'll stand up and laugh maniacally to all of their friends while looking at the damage that they reap as they head over to that's a picture there of the Cylon sideboard, right? So they get to go over and basically, or that's not there, but yeah, they get to deal with the Cylon actions after. Yeah. So
Cylons are bad and good. Yeah.
I've been in the hobby for a while, but this game was already out of print when I got into the hobby. So
yeah,
I just haven't played it. And I love Dark Moon. I love Unfathomable. I'm sure I'd have a blast with it. It's just a matter of time.
It's so sad that that the IP wasn't renewed, right? Like,
agreed.
It's like I've I mean, the game, if objectively speaking, the game, probably Dark Moon is a more streamlined version. All right, it's probably a more stream, but the theme and the IP is so good, and the way it works in this game, it's like you can't take it out, and the experience becomes that much better.
It is one of the best integrations of an IP into a board game.
Agreed. Yeah.
That I mean, they just absolutely freaking nailed it. And that was at a time where you were seeing IP slapped on board games all the time. You know what I mean? We used to see it as kids, like you'd see like the Hasbro or Mattel. I have a Mr. T board game somewhere that's just a stupid roll and move, from like 1987, but like
all were rolling moves back then.
Yeah. But like, it was so easy to dismiss that style of game because it would just take an image from the show, right? Plaster it on the box. And you're like, well, this
copies,
yeah. And it's like, well, this game's probably crap. And that was never like Battlestar Galactica. I got really lucky because I got mine at a Barnes and Noble Red Dot sale. So I paid $20 for mine and didn't know what I had, hadn't played it. It was sitting on my shelf in shrink. I went to my sister's and one of her friends was like, hey, have you guys played Battlestar Galactica yet? And I'm like, oh no, I haven't. Like, let's play it. I'd love, can you teach me how to play it? Love to learn it. And then we played it. And it was like, like this game's so mean and so brilliant. Yeah, it's great. Wonderful pick.
The only bad experience I had one time playing Battlestar, we played and realized at the end, what I think it was that I had accidentally seeded the deck with too many Cylons. So as soon as a second Cylon revealed, the other person was like, hold on a second.
Or like,
ever since then, I always double, second guess myself, and then I have to ask someone else who's not playing to be like, can you go around and make once the second half of the game begin? Basically, the way it works is that in the first half of the game, some loyalty cards get out,
right?
But in the second half, another set go out. So you might have started as thinking you're a human, but you're actually a Cylon, and you discover
Yeah.
that you're a Cylon in the second half, which
So thematic.
spoiler alert, is kind of happens in the show where it's like people are sleeper agents and they don't know until
So good.
right. And yeah, and so it's like every time now we play, about halfway through, I'm like, can you walk around and make sure that there's the right yeah.
Yeah,
Total Cylon accidentally.
Yeah, you were playing the Oops All Cylons expansion.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I will also say there is one expansion for Battlestar. I want to say it's Daybreak that is a must.
I don't have any of them. I lucked into my cheapo base game, and I'm just also not willing to spend 125 or more on an expansion.
But I say this is a must. No, not realizing how lucky I am that I got all of these when they were available. Right?
No, that's incredible. And yeah.
But it's what it does is that rather than the Cylons disappearing when you jump away. So basically what happens is kind of the premise of the show is that you have the battle, like the humans are flying and being chased by AI, by Cylons, who are much, much more powerful. And this is like the last vestige of humanity on these few ships. And so every once in a while they jump through hyperspace to get away from the Cylons, knowing that the Cylons eventually will catch up to them. It's kind of like, I don't know, like tortoise in the hare, or what maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But in the board game, in the original, you jump and then the Cylons just kind of disappear, and eventually there's something that triggers a new drop of Cylons.
Mm-hmm.
But with the expansion, the Daybreak expansion, when you jump, the Cylon fleet just goes to a sideboard and eventually jumps back. So you kind of have to deal with them. In the original, you could kind of just jump away, and then it's like, okay, great. That was like dealing with them.
Because they slowly reseed.
Yeah. But in with the expansion, if you don't deal with them by shooting them down, they get bigger and bigger and bigger and keep jumping to catch up with you. It's just, and it's not,
That's awesome. Have you played Unfathomable?
I've not.
I've
resisted.
Oh, fair.
Because I've, again, Reed and others have said the game is a bit more streamlined, right? But it is. I don't want my darling to be.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. One very cool thing that they do in that, and they keep it really well with the theme. So the theme is you're a ship, right? You're trying to get to land. So, kind of like, Battlestar, you're trying to build up, hit FTL, right? Boom, go to the next thing. Build up, boom. So in this, because it's a ship, somebody can go down and basically throw coal in the boiler, right, as an action. And then that moves the ship. So all of the spots outside of the boat where the deep ones are, they all just basically move back one space because it simulates the boat is just speeding up and like faster than they can swim. But then, yes, there's phases where they come back, like, so they never completely go away. They come back, you know what I mean? And then if they can get to the front of the boat, then they start to climb on, and then they start wrecking areas of your ship. So, it's not as good as Battlestar Galactica, but I'm able to get it to the table easier because it is a little more streamlined. But the way that they did that mechanic with the ship sailing and the way the guys move, I thought was brilliant. I love that idea. Like, it still gave you sort of that very thematic feeling that Battlestar did, because that's what they did. It was like the ship would go, right? And then after a little while, the Cylon ships would be like, and you're like, oh shit, like it's about to hit the fan again. But yeah, great pick, man. Great pick.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's got to happen eventually.
It's got to happen.
Wow. So you're going with the granddaddies of space games here. So we're going to go with one granddaddy Fantasy Flight published Corey Kanicha design to another Fantasy Flight Corey Kanicha designed granddaddy of space games, because this list would not be complete without Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah,
I could
so
have put
good.
it number 1, but that's too predictable, and we like to mix things up. This game's just fantastic. It's cat and mouse in a box. It feels like the rebels are trying to avoid the empires, and it feels like the empire is trying to destroy the rebel base. And it is so satisfying. It is so fun to play. That's really all I got to say. It's just amazing. Definitely, you want to play with the expansion. It does improve the
Combat.
battle mechanics quite a bit. But yeah, I just love this cat and mouse. I definitely prefer to play the rebels because I feel clever if I'm able to get through the whole game and you couldn't find me. But yeah, like Bob said, it's probably the best implementation of Star Wars that's out there. I will give an honorable mention nod to the Star Wars deck builder, which is also very fun. If you haven't played that yet, definitely check it out because it's very enjoyable. But yeah, this is the Star Wars game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny because Bob and I learned it at my sister's house. We started it around midnight, and my brother-in-law Patrick, who Yuval has met, was like, "Oh, you guys are starting this now?" And we're like, "Yeah, why not?" 3 hours later, I think Bob finally found my rebel base and destroyed it. But man, we had a good time doing it. It was great.
I have to say I've never played it.
Oh,
shocking.
Hello to
okay.
But Reed has it, and I'm sure I can get it to the table, and I want to. You mentioned all of the Star Wars games. Reed's right now. Our friend Reed is presently obsessed with Star Wars Unlimited.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Yeah.
So is Bob. I've got some stuff, but no real decks because it's just too hard to get cards for it right now for me.
Yes, and like Wayne said, they recently announced a Clone Wars expansion for the Star Wars deck builder. So that's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
For all the millennials. And I can go, get off my lawn, because I'm an original trilogy guy, But but guess what? I'll still own it. I'll still buy it.
No question. Yeah, I actually bought this for a kid, and we had a lot of fun playing this one. Played it quite a bit. And yeah, there was still one time when Bob and I were still relatively, I was trying to tag this one. Bob and I were still relatively new friends. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, he's trying to get me to come over, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of tired, but if you come up with something epic, probably come over. And then I thought to myself, if he says Star Wars Rebellion, I'm coming over. And then 3 seconds later, he texts me Star Wars Rebellion. I'm like, dude, I'm putting my shoes on. I think I white flagged that game. He beat me so badly, I actually threw in the towel. But it was a lot of fun. I still enjoy it even when I lose badly. So
could probably do a whole top 10 around Fantasy Flight Star Wars games.
Oh my gosh,
there's so many of them. Right? Yeah,
seriously, I love it when companies that put a lot of effort into the components and art and stuff like that make games and IPs that I love. So
yeah, that one, no brainer, had to make the list. All righty, Tim, your number 2 space game.
All right. Well, I got to go mainstream, I think. No, you know what? No. I'm saving my mainstream for number 1. I'm going to go another little tiny deep cut because I legit love this game. This game blew us away at Gen Con 2 years ago. Was like our experience of Gen Con was demoing this. Then kind of got to become friends with the designers and the publisher, and it's been a beautiful thing. But this game, regardless of all of that, has legs. It's amazing, and that is Mission Control. It is a 20-minute timed cooperative game. Somebody is the what is it? The Ethernaut out there in space, and there's a problem with their shuttle and all of the different space, like mission control like sections, right? Like there's Bangalore, Houston, and what's the other one? Isn't it in Germany? Where's the other one?
Germany
Yeah.
and
India and the
I don't
United
remember.
States. Yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah.
you basically the Ethernaut is rolling dice, and they roll 3 dice, and you've got to pick. Everybody's got to agree on 2 of the values, which then everyone can assign to their boards, their respective boards, and everybody's playing a different game on their board. Like you might have a Sudoku puzzle, you might have I forget what it is, but it's like these columns, and you're trying to get the numbers to add up to these values that you need. There's all kinds of crazy cool stuff. And then you're going to get unlocks. And so when you unlock things for other players, so you might go, Bangalore gets this, Ethernaut, gain a thing. And so they might they're going to reach into their bag, and they're trying to connect. Basically, they're building this puzzle where they've got these like Tetris pieces, and they're trying to connect these lines to one another so they get their oxygen lines. But you've got to, it's really fun. It's really, really difficult. And it's very stressful because it's timed. You literally, when everybody agrees to start, you set a timer for 20 minutes and that's it. And it's really wild. We've had amazing games where we've barely won. We've won with like 5 minutes to spare, and we have lost a ton of times. And there's also challenge cards, which you can make stuff, more difficult. If you're just feeling yourself like, I'm too good at this game, like, oh, well, here's something that'll smack you in the face and bring you back down to earth. But I really, really, really thoroughly enjoy Mission Control. This game is super fun. And
so is it like it's like a co-op and everyone has their own little puzzle?
Correct.
But the resources are shared. Like you have to agree on the numbers based on what you need. And that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so you might be like 3, 5, and 6, and might go. Well, I really need a 6. I'm like, I need a 3 and a 5. It's like okay.
Or is it like a set number of missions, or are they randomized, or how does it work to keep it?
So the mission is basically whoever the Ethernaut is trying to. They are always doing this
board.
They are always trying to do the same thing, and that is to connect their oxygen lines and get enough oxygen to flow through. So it's not just getting the lines to connect, but there's these little like oxygen molecule symbols like on there. So they have different values. So you need enough oxygen, not just like a little trickle.
Right.
So the way you change it up is by playing a different country. So if you play a different country, you're going to be working on a different puzzle. So the variety comes in, the die rolling, and then the different puzzles you might be working on, as you're trying to put everything together.
The Ethernaut that's trying to save themselves. I always say it's like that old Nintendo game Pipe Dream, where you just kind of got those sort of weird pieces and you're trying to connect like sections of your board. It's funny. The only time I've ever lost is the time I was the Ethernaut. So, the puzzles are really unique. Like on one board, you're playing a little miniature version of Sudoku, and as soon as you fill up a column or a row, great, the Ethernaut gets a bonus. Or like whoever's playing this one, they're trying to add they're trying to add numbers up to equal this total at the top, and as soon as they do that, Ethernaut gets a bonus.
And I believe that one you have to go sequential too, so you can't go too far, right? Or you can only write next to where you already have a number. So
that's right. It's just got really interesting limitations, and all of the mini games feel very unique from one another. This person up here is basically playing a polyomino game. And as they start to cover up these like stars, they're once again giving the Ethernaut bonuses.
Right. So the other 3 are trying to support the Ethernaut.
Correct.
Who's stuck in space trying to survive, and
it's just so unique. There's really nothing like it. And on top of that, you got to do it within 20 minutes. And so it gets a little chaotic towards the end, and the Ethernaut's trying to put those pipes together, and it's just a lot of fun. And I've never played anything like it.
And I always want to yell 30 seconds, McGruber, while we're playing it.
Just nothing like it. It's very unique.
Yeah, I love stressful games. I don't know why. I do not like stress in my life, but I do love really stressful tense board games. Get everybody worked up and, yell and get your blood pumping a little bit.
My number 2 is probably one of my top 5 overall games.
There it is.
However, I feel a little bit cheating for including it on the list because the theme in this is somewhat pasted on. But so I never liked Race for the Galaxy. I played it a few times and I was like, okay, I get it. It's fine. But I love Roll for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I love
Nice.
it. But the theme, very, very pasted on.
Sure.
The premise is you start with a handful of dice. They represent workers. You're going to be rolling these dice behind a screen each round. And behind your screen, you're going to assign those dice based on the numbers that were rolled to different actions that you can do. And you get to select one action, one of the 5 actions. Once everyone's done that, they reveal their dice, and only the actions that have been activated will be taken. So here, for example, you can see the player selected to do the ship action. Not sure why they used that wild resource to do it, but poor strategy. But regardless, maybe they had their reason. Anyway, once you do that, then you do the actions in order, the ones that were activated, but you get to do all of the actions that were activated. So let's say someone had activated Explore and Settle, and this person activated Chip. Everyone, including this person, gets to do Explore, Settle, and Chip. And so Explore lets you get more tiles, basically get more tiles or a little bit of money. Develop lets you develop the tiles all of the tiles in the game are 2-sided. One side has a development and another side has a planet. So Develop lets you work on the developments and Settle lets you work on the planets. And then once they're done, they'll move into your tableau and give you either more dice or new powers. And then Produce and Ship you can use to get victory points or get more money. And then at the end of each round, you're using the money or the credits to put dice back into your cup. Otherwise, you basically will only have 1 die the next round. And so it's a really quick game. Once people know what they're doing, you can play a game of this in 20 to 30 minutes. And the engine building is fantastic. I mean, I think most gamers, once they've played or into games, like engine building is one of those things that they really look for in a game, and sort of like that reward of seeing things start to chug along. And the variety and types of engines that you can produce in this game are just delightful.
Yeah, it's a really good game.
Love this game. It's a classic. I'm still a big fan. This game is the reason I really enjoy dice pool building. I love just rolling a big old glob of dice, and assigning them and trying to guess what other people are going to do and maximize my action. I like that kind of interactive mini game you're playing behind your screen after you've rolled your dice. I'm a big fan. I've got the Ambition expansion and I've played that one a few times, but they just released another one just last year. I don't even know what's in this one. Rivalry. No, it's not Rivalry. Is it Rivalry?
Well, they had a couple, because they had Ambition, and then I thought Rivalry replaced, like you're playing it instead or in addition to. I don't remember.
Ah.
I'm not sure if you're supposed to, if you can. No, it says you can stack. It's compatible, but the expansion is not required to play Rivalry. Yeah.
Whoa.
I see a couple. There's a bit of a brouhaha going in the chat.
I'm
just going to weigh in and say Roll is absolutely better than Race, at least for me. Yeah. I mean,
so
roll dice. Come on, it's just fun.
I'm a dice roller, so I'm with you there. I also didn't realize they went with these like kind of dice realm sort of
That looks like
customizable dice faces. That's
that's
interesting.
that's for rivalry, eh? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
yeah,
can customize your own dice in there.
yeah. Wow. Okay,
I
I'm
feel like
I'm
that
I'm
might slow things down in terms of playtime. And one of the
Mhm.
things I like
yeah.
about Roll is that it's really zippy.
Yeah, really. I mean, you can play this in like 20 minutes and feel like you've built up this pretty cool thing. It's very fulfilling for its
Yeah.
playtime for sure. Yeah, when you know what you're doing, it really zips by.
Mhm.
Great pick. I love Roll for the Galaxy. It was one of my honorable mentions. So is Mission Control, by the way. So um yeah, I still love Roll for the Galaxy. I don't play it nearly as much as I used to, but man, this might just be pick up that rivalry expansion, and I bet my love for this game would just come right back. uh, good pick. Okay, my number two. This is another newer game. But I gotta tell you, I do love me some polyomino games. And this is maybe my favorite one I've ever played, and it's Planet Unknown. Um, I'm always, you talked about you like trying to find games that support higher player counts.
Yeah.
I really like trying to find not just games that support higher player counts for like parties and stuff like that, but I also like trying to find games that support six that are like more strategic and are not party games because it's a really hard player count to satisfy. Like most games stop at four. There's obviously several that go to five, but six is just that weird count. And I think this game is one of the better six-player games I've ever played. And it's that lazy Susan. It's the simultaneous play. It's so smart, and it's such a simple game, but I just find it incredibly satisfying every time I play it. So basically, I'm trying to find the lazy Susan. Somebody's got to have a picture of it. No, we just got avatars and such. So basically, there's a lazy Susan, and it's got a bunch of Tetris pieces on it. Whoever is the captain gets to spin that lazy Susan around whatever direction they want. That's obviously a prototype of their lazy Susan. And of course, prototype boards. Turn this baby however you want and aim the piece that you want to pick towards you. Then you pick from one of two depots. Everybody else is going to have a depot in front of them, and they're going to pick a piece from the this lazy Susan spot that's in front of them. Everybody places their piece at the same time. All of the pieces have two sides to them, and each side has a different action. And those actions are basically just moving you up these tracks. But as you go up, and I love tracks in games, so six players plays in like 80 minutes, simultaneous play, polyominoes, and tracks. It's so many things I love in a game. So you're moving up these tracks. They give you bonus actions. You've got in round cards that you can draft as you're going along. It's also got neighbor scoring in this one. So you put a card between you and the player next to you. So you're both competing for this one shared goal. So that makes it interesting as well. And the replayability of this one is insane because there's like, I want to say there's like 16 different planets. There's just a basic plain beginner board, but then the back of all 16 of those boards has very different planets. And there's 16 different track boards over here that all give you different bonuses when you reach different thresholds of these tracks. And you start mixing different tracks and different planets together, and you feel like you're playing almost an entirely different game depending on the combinations that you get. So to me, just the replayability of all those asymmetric player boards and everything else it adds. I love Planet Unknown so much. I asked to play this probably more than any other game when it came out, and then it was so hard to find, and then they finally reprinted
Right.
it, and I backed that reprint. So
That
I'm very happy about that. But I'm a
that
huge fan.
that's my biggest beef with the game. It was really hard to get because it is so good. Yeah. And you didn't mention the asymmetric technology as well, like technology development that you can get in there. It's really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think Inside, sorry, it's Adam's Apple. I was
Yeah.
thinking Inside Up for a second. Adam's Apple just really underestimated the demand for that game, unfortunately.
I
This,
think go ahead.
oh, I know even when we saw them at Gen Con, not
2
23 and
years ago.
22, when the game launched, and they sold out of that game the very first day. They didn't even save games. They didn't ration them per day, and it was gone like by very quickly the very first day.
I think something that I really like that they've done and that's kind of introduced and sort of it's fine. You know, you talk about games that are good for 6 or a higher player count and sort of containing the time that it takes. And they do that by obviously simultaneous action, right? But in a way that you still feel some level of interaction. Like you're not going to have the same level of interaction as you would like on a shared board or anything like that. But because, yes, the lazy Susan matters, but more importantly, it really ratchets up when you have the neighbor scoring, because now it's not just me looking at. Otherwise, there's not really much reason for me to look too much at others.
Yeah.
But now, if I'm trying to compete against my 2 neighbors on these 2 things, I'm now trying to. When it's my turn to pick the lazy Susan, it's like, okay, how do I put it so that I can move up on the tracks that I need to, or get the rewards that I need, but deny you neighbors the stuff that you need. Really
Yeah,
elegant.
I know this one is not I'm not Tim's not a lover of this one, and that's okay. I just happen to I know it can be, like you said, that neighbor scoring helps break up some of what is mostly a multiplayer solitaire game. But that doesn't bother me a whole lot. I definitely prefer the interaction, but
Yeah.
this game just does so many things right for me, and I love polyominoes, so it's just a home run for me.
My only issues is that I play it with people like Mike and Bob who live and breathe it. So I cannot even be competitive with it when I do play. And then when I try to play with people that aren't them, I play on BGA, and I'm really, really not good at spatial games on a computer level. I need to physically have the pieces in plate. Yeah. I right. I have to be able to do that for me to like really, to really like scratch that itch, and like for me to also feel like I'm halfway decent at it or competent even. But like Bob does it. Bob has 1 gear. Spencer has 1 gear. Mike has 2 gears. And so the great thing is I have brilliant friends that are really good at board games. The bad thing is I have brilliant friends that are really good at board games. So it's really they can really stomp you down on a learning game, and then you're like, well, why do I ever want to play this with you again? Because I will never have a chance. And also at the time, like 2 people I knew owned the game, and so it was really hard, like it just was difficult, to get, or so it wasn't like I got to play it a bunch. Everybody else was getting together and playing it a ton, and I'm like, okay, well, you guys have fun. I'll pass. I'll see you in an hour. I'll play something else over here. But it is an amazingly well-designed game. It's not a game design problem. It is a Tim problem. And I acknowledge that. That's fine.
On to our number ones. I'm
yeah.
excited.
Oh, wow.
My number 1's a classic, and I won't apologize for it. Yuval, you talked about a game that helped get you into the hobby as it is now. This is the successor to that game, and I'm talking about Catan Starfarers, especially the reprint. They friggin' nailed the reprint. I love Catan. I still enjoy Catan. I know that I have friends that are snobs, and they're like, I don't play Catan. It's stupid. You're stupid. Catan is still good. relax, and just have fun with it. Are there better games and that people have improved on it? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's evolved, but I also like old movies. There's better things that are done in movies now than they were done 40, 50 years ago. But guess what? I still love those movies. I still love Catan, but Catan Starfarers is the best version of Catan. And the way that you can customize your ship and you've got those crazy encounters, like it just does all these different things. It really makes it interesting. You're always getting resources, even when you're, especially when you're like lower on the score, you're still getting resources all the time, which then, so it still keeps people in the game. It's a wonderful sort of catch up mechanic, keeps everybody engaged. So you're not always just hosed by having a bad number, well, I settled here, but that number's never hitting, no, there's like really fun and inventive ways that they've mitigated that. And, I really, really, really want to implement that resource system in regular Catan. Like if you're below X amount of points, gain one, take a wheat, take a sheep. Because I feel like that would also speed up Catan as well, which it can run long. So if you can speed it up, everybody's got a ton of resources and they're just racing to, block everybody, and do all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the Starfarers is so good. It's so good. I enjoy it. It's a classic. And I love the reprint. Have you played it, Yuval?
I've not played it, and I wouldn't say that I'm a Catan, like a snob. I don't mind Catan. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say that I don't think people would argue it's a bad game. I feel like it's just people overplay it, right? Like
it's an old
when you start getting into the hobby, you start with 3 games and you play them way too much
to death,
and then you realize there's 3 million games out there, and so then we get into the other place where it's like we have games on our shelves that we've never touched, and so many games that we've played once or twice. But it's like Catan is one of those everyone has played it a lot, right. But it's a good game, and like I'll play it. Probably I end up playing it couple times a year just because it's light, it's fun, and my kids haven't gotten tired of it. It's people that you're trying to introduce to games like it, like it's still a great gateway.
Yeah, no, it 100% is. And if you like it, if you even remotely like Catan, I would say look at Starfarers, look at it real hard. The production value is beautiful. And it just does some really neat things. So my buddy Bob here, he does not like Catan, like the Catan, right? Starfarers, he went out and bought, like after playing it with me. Like he's like, oh, and never have to fight Bob to play Starfarers. He'll play it anytime. They just do a lot of really good things with it. Yeah,
but it's still Catan at heart. They just have mitigated some of the problems with it.
Yeah, kind of. It barely even feels like Catan because you're flying your ship out. Like, so everybody starts at like the bottom of the board and you're basically moving along these lines to get up to the planets. The planets are randomized and then you can build settlements, and stuff on the planets. So then you'll generate those resources. You can do things to like make your ship move farther, put additional rocket boosters. So you actually have these boosters that you attach to your ship. So you always know like what your ship's capabilities are. And then you have to put guns on your ship because if you have an encounter and pirates show up and they have like a little like encounter tree. So like you find a derelict ship. Oh, but there's an abandoned, space princess on there. Do you help her? And so like, well, maybe you decide to help her. Oh, it was bait for pirates. They all come out and, and now you've got to be able to fight them off. And sometimes it's like, no, you actually help her and you get a big reward for, delivering her, getting her home. So there's all kinds of crazy things. One time, I think it was Bob hit like a wormhole, teleported him completely to the other side of the map. So now he's working in a different direction as we are. So all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, you get resources every turn until you reach a certain threshold. So, because you're still playing to like the 8 points or whatever, right? But until you get to like 6 or 7 points, you're still getting resources. And if you're under like 3 or 4, you're getting like 2 resources. So it ramps, so it scales back it throttles you back as you get further
Bit of
ahead
a
in the
catch-up
game.
mechanic. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just feels really good because especially early on, you feel like you've got a ton of resources and you're able to do stuff, and then by the time it starts to get, more constrictive, hopefully you've built up your engine, a bit so that you're able to still kind of feed the beast, right? And you can keep going and keep making some, having interesting turns. But yeah, you literally, the rockets underneath, they have these little colored balls. So you turn your rocket and then you put it back, and then it tells you, like, there's some that represent movement. There's some that represent, like if you get like the black ones, then it's that's like an encounter. So there's all kinds of different things, that can trigger on your turn. But yeah, super fun, really good. It is the best version of Catan. It's rock solid.
I'll definitely have to give that a go. I mean, the other Catan that I've tried, which again is surprisingly not bad, is Catan Junior.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Game of Thrones Catan. I was going to
no,
get
I've not
excited.
tried that. No, but like Catan Junior for kids is, again, it's great.
I haven't played that one. I should get that one for my kids. I would probably play it.
It's like it's pirate ships and stuff like that, and there's a little market, and it's nice. Again, not for gamers, right? But if you're like looking for a game for kids, or if you have a kid, or you're looking for a gift for kids, and you want to introduce them to games, Catan Junior is quite good.
Yeah, love it. I love playing games with my kids. I'm trying to get them to where they ask me to play games, and I'm not constantly recruiting them to play games. But
yeah, my number one, I played for the first time 6-7 years ago. So I mentioned, like I just sort of alluded to this a few minutes ago. Most games in our collections we've played 2-3 times. The odd game you maybe have played 5 times, 10 times. The exceptional game you've played more. My number one, I just was checking on my BG stats, and I'm sure it's incomplete, but I've played 191 times. And that's Terraforming Mars.
Wow.
During COVID, when things were shut down here, me and my wife, who is my, one of the people that I game with the most, probably were playing it every 2 or 3 days just to fill time, and it's just so great. It's also one of the few games that kind of we both like. I gravitate towards heavier games. She gravitates towards lighter games like Azul, that kind of stuff. And this was one that she was willing to play or liked playing, actively enjoyed and wanted to play, and I was obviously into it. Yeah, for me, it's like just a great game. I assume most people here probably know something about it, but at its core, you are a corporation. You are trying to gain victory points by terraforming Mars, that is increasing its temperature, increasing its oxygen, or dropping oceans. Of course, there's many other ways of generating victory points in game, but that's kind of the main thrust of the game. You have project cards that you're playing, so a lot of them have requirements tied to where some of those indicators are. So the temperature has to be above a certain location, or the oxygen can't be above, things like that. And yeah, the turns are pretty snappy. They're short. There's not a lot of downtime once people know what they're doing. With 3 or 4 players, I can get a game of an hour and a half into it. I see a comment. Have I tried Ares Expedition? I have Ares Expedition. I still prefer the original. Again, I feel like it didn't actually shorten the game enough, and it doesn't. And I feel like it just took away a little bit. I will play both. I've actually started playing. I tried a few times. There's a co-op variant through what is it, Ambition or something like that. The Ares Expedition expansions. One of them is a co-op, which actually is really good. I don't really like too many co-op games, and that one is actually really good. Crisis. It's called Crisis. I will be honest. This game inspired mine. Like, Initially, my game, you were a corporation, and it was not like I wasn't trying to hide it. Even thematically, originally my game was kind of intended to be the thematically successor in that, oh, Mars has now been terraformed. Oh shoot, we need to get people off the planet because there's an asteroid coming at it, and look, we can send them to Mars. And so now your corporation's doing that. I completely built off, like, loved that theme, and so tried to spin off of that. Obviously, it's taken a very different theme now. We're scientists. We're trying to save a planet. There's no sinister motives, things like that. But yeah, this game definitely has been an inspiration. I would say the only thing I don't like about the game is the art. And I really and yeah, like the stock photography and the fact that in newer versions they've gone with like AI art is kind of problematic and painful for many people in the industry, of course. But at its core, the game itself and the mechanics, the gameplay is I just love it.
I just don't like playing this game at higher player counts anymore. I started playing it solo, and I don't ever want to play it with more than one other person. Because unlike you, whenever I play with like 3 or more players, it goes on forever. And I think it's just the people that I've been playing it with.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on, man, this game shouldn't take that long.
I mean,
I really like Terraforming Mars. But yeah, I love playing it solo because I can play it in a half an hour, lose, reset, try again. And the solo mode is really fun and difficult.
It's definitely prone to AP. Like, I've definitely had those occasional games where, one person at the table is taking too long as everyone else combined.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. It's not designed to take that long. To jump back. Oh, Kara, I'm really sorry that you had a bad experience with that. That's a bummer. When somebody jumped through the wormhole in our game, I guess we all just kind of had I don't know that they were able to capitalize so much that it felt out of control, but I get it. It can happen. And sometimes something like that can happen and it can kill a game for you. Kind of like my experience with Planet Unknown. But yeah, Terraforming Mars, like, solid pick, man. That's awesome. You get your wife to play with you too.
Well, Kara, who's just jumped in, is my wife, so she is the has experienced it many times playing that game with me. And as I said, during the COVID, we were playing it a ton. There's a few games in my collection that I've pimped up.
You have to do that to your Terraforming Mars because otherwise it's unplayable.
The first one I did was Agricola years back.
Sure.
I played that a lot. And then Terraforming Mars, before they came out with the big box and all of the 3D tiles, Kara actually bought for me a whole 3D printed set, which I then went and painted very lovingly, and we play with it so much. Terraforming Mars is probably the only, well, I mean, again, not surprising when you've played it 190 times, is the only game in my collection that I've actually had to go and replace because I don't sleeve cards in games because I'm like, too much effort. But this was the game where it was like, all right, I guess I need a new version because it's just unplayable at this point. So we're into our second copy of it.
Nice.
Wow. This was an honorable mention for me as well. I still like it more than Ark Nova. But I've played this one more. I was actually late to the party, so by the time I bought this one, the first time I played it, I'm like, okay, this is all right. And then the second time I played it, it really grew on me. And then I ended up tracking down a copy that already had upgraded player boards and all that good stuff. But definitely a lot of fun. And I do kind of agree with Tim. I prefer to keep it at like 2 or 3 players. 4 and 5's a bit much, but 2 and 3 is a sweet spot.
A bit much is putting it nicely. For me, I'm just like, I'll pass. I just won't. I'll play something else. Because everybody will just, I don't know. Maybe if I could guarantee play with people that don't have like too much AP. I get it. You want to be able to take your time on your turn and make a good quality turn, but also like keep
Yeah.
it moving.
Yeah. And it helps to know the game. Again,
It does. It does.
me and Kara, when we play, it can be. I feel like we've probably played it in an hour just because you know the cards. Like
Mhm.
there's no
Oh, yeah.
processing time, right? Like you can, yeah.
Yeah, if you've played it that many times, that would be nice. You could just whip right through it.
It's on BGA now.
Familiarity.
It's on Board Game Arena now. And
Yeah.
we've started playing it, and you could larger player counts on Board Game Arena works well because you're not having to wait for anyone. You just play your turn and
Right.
walk away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how it should be. That's how it
Yeah.
should be.
I need to start some games of this on there.
We've played a couple times with our kids, and either have to have like some podcast playing in our ear, or we'll pause the game because it can, as you say, can eventually drag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mike, what's your number one?
All right, my number one.
Drum roll.
You know, unfortunately, I'm also stuck with the desire to constantly play new games. So
Nothing
this
wrong
one
with
I do
that.
not have 191 plays of. I have a meager 5 plays of this game, but I do know that it's my favorite space game. I thought I'd get some crossover on Dune Imperium.
With me or with Yuval?
No, I was thinking maybe Yuval, but it was just a guess because he obviously likes some space and worker placement games that have deck building in them. So I thought maybe.
I felt like, see, there's not enough space in Dune Imperium
There is.
in any of the Dune games because it's all like terrestrial. You know what I mean? Like everything you're doing is basically on a planet.
Sure. Yeah.
But I had a feeling this would be on your list, so please continue.
Yeah, but at the
It's
same
a space
time,
game.
I
There's
just
space
kinda,
on the box.
it's
You're
a
good.
space game, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I just need to play it more because I've got the Rise of Ix expansion and the Immortality expansion unplayed. Unfortunately, the base game alone still hits my top 20. I just love how tight it is. You are fighting for every point you get. This struggle for 10 points can really feel pretty epic. And I love Paul Denon games. I could have made Clink in Space my number 5 and been
Honorable
totally
mention.
happy. Yeah, honorable mention. I absolutely love his designs, all the Clink games and the Dune games. But I just love okay, these are the cards you're going to use to place your guys onto the board, and you only have the very basic options. But then you can only use a couple of those, you're going to pass. What you don't use, you're going to get instant benefits from at the end of the turn. And that dual purpose card usage in this game, I just think is genius. Plus, you add asymmetric powers. And then you add a bit of interaction where everybody is putting troops into this battle that's going to be waged at the end of every round. And then, of course, buying better cards that get you to the better spots on the board. It's just so good. It's really tight. It's the only bad part is I've had some games that have gone really long. Like I have had some where like the game could have ended at somebody scoring 10 and I'm like, no, I still have a shot at winning this, and I'm totally satisfied if we ended this game right now, looking at like, okay, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes with a teach on a 4-player game, but nope, I've got a shot at winning, so let's keep going. And then I sabotage the person that has the 9 points, and then we end up having to play to 11, and I still end up losing, and it goes almost 3 hours, but everybody at the table ends up just having a blast. It's one of those. It can run a little long, but I just absolutely love Dune Imperium. It does everything right, I think. I know Dan has said my one criticism I always thought was I felt like you had to win the battles to win this game, and that can be heavily influenced. That can be heavily influenced by a lucky intrigue card play. But I know people that have won the game by buying the cards that give you points. I'm sorry, I don't remember what they're called. But there is a recruiting strategy in this game where you can just buy cards that give you points, and every time you draw them, you're just getting points from your deck it's a much harder way to win. And getting involved in those conflicts is really the easier path to victory. But I would like to actually see that play out sometime. But it's a fantastic game.
I've played it twice. The first time my experience was okay. The second time was much better. And I feel like I would play it more, but I don't know if anyone in my game group actually owns it is the problem. So maybe that's my cue to go get it myself, because it's trending upward for me. I just haven't played it enough to put it onto any top list.
This is a game that rewards multiple.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the problem. What you described, the first play was just so long. I want to say it was over 3 hours or something like that. And anytime, you have an experience like that, it a little bit leaves a bit of a sour taste. And so it was just. But have you tried the new? Is it Uprising or?
I haven't tried Uprising. No,
the new release or the second. Is it a second edition or something like that?
It's a revamped version.
Yeah.
No, I have not. Have you?
No. I was asking in case that's where I should go next.
Yeah, none of our group has actually played this yet, which is crazy because we got some really big Dune fans in our game group. Says it supports 6 right out of the box, which is crazy. That's insane.
The problem for me with Dune Imperium is it's amazing, but it's really unforgiving. It's so tight that it's very unforgiving. Early mistakes in that game can really damn you. And if you're playing with experienced people, like when I play with Mike and Bob, it's just not fun the rest of the game because you're already out and you will never be back in. And then Mike will prolong the game for another hour so that he can try to win, but he'll still lose to Bob. I don't think I was actually there for the one that you did that, but I mean, it sort of does like a villainous kind of thing for me, where it just overstays its welcome. Somebody very clearly is about to win, and then everybody spends the next hour and a half stopping that person from winning, and you're, if you're not able to sort of balance that and build up your own stuff, and again, the resources are so tight, it's just really hard. I like to be able to like tinker when I play, like an engine building, like a deck building. I like a little bit of flexibility, and there's just none of that. It's almost like Dune Imperium is almost like Agricola for me. Like there's no room for mistakes.
Yeah.
In Agricola,
every turn you have to be efficient and
and for me and like my own enjoyment, I'd rather have the flexibility. Lost Ruins of Arnak is comparative, to it. It's a little more forgiving. You just can't ignore any of the tracks. A lot more forgiving in Arnak, right? But in that one, you get to dabble. You get to try all the different things. Sort of like How to Save a Planet, right? How to Save a Planet. You got all these different tracks, and you can move up some of these tracks. So if somebody takes your move, well, you can still do like these other effective moves and feel like you've got productive turns. But my friends, anybody that I know that loves Dune Imperium loves Dune Imperium. I thought it was fine. And then by the time that I was kind of willing to give it another shot, it's like, no, I'm not going to subject myself to this because I already know I will not have fun playing it with my friends that want to play it, because I'm going to sit and just watch them beat up on each other while I get 4 points. And try to figure out how to play the game, effectively. So it just stops being a fun experience for me. I'd play it with new people, like, okay, like, let's figure this out. Let's work through some stuff, but I'm not going to sit down and play it with these pros that I hang out with. It's just not going to happen.
I'm not a pro at any game unless I played it like 10, 20 times.
Well,
I've only played this one a handful of times.
You and Bob are very competitive in this game. And, so again, it would just be like me sitting there and spectating and watching you guys play. Like, well, this looks like it could be really fun if I knew what I was doing.
I would also add, because it comes up a lot, I actually still prefer Lost Ruins of Arnak. I think that's better game for me personally. One of the reasons is because Dune Imperium is not that good at 2. I would decline games of this at 2 because you have to control an AI. it's very easy to control. And in fact, you can use the app and it'll run it for you and it tells you what to do. And even when it's easy, I just don't like controlling an
Yeah, I don't.
AI to simulate a player in
Agreed.
two-player games. I just don't like it, regardless how easy it is.
Agreed.
So, not great at two, especially when the game's is really all about that conflict and players having a battle, at the end of every round. That it suffers it too because of that for me.
I think. Yeah, I know there's a lot of comparisons between Dune Imperium and Arnak. I think I tend to gravitate more towards Dune Imperium, not just because of theme, but also because the deck building feels more genuine in Dune Imperium.
Yeah.
In Arnak, there's so few rounds that you're not really getting to reap the benefit of having this exciting new card in your deck.
Yeah.
Which is actually one of the reasons we changed from our system of the deck building to the hand building, because it's like, no, you are guaranteed to get your new card every round. You know how many times you will get access to it. You buy it in round 2, you will have it for the rest of the game every round. You buy it in round 5, you might only get to use it once or twice, and it goes into your hand, so you can use it the round that you bought it. Right? Like there's always,
Yeah, that's why late round you buy all the scoring cards so you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's I say no. First of all, yeah, like you said, the deck building in Imperium is much more impactful.
Yeah,
than it is in Arnak, and I've seen people win in Arnak and only buy a single card the entire game. It is very much a bit of an afterthought. I call it a tactical deck builder. You're very rarely buying a card that you go, I'm buying this because what it's going to do for me for the rest of the game. I'm often buying a card for what it will do for me in that particular moment in time. This will help me right now. Is a lot of times why I'm buying cards, or because I have gold and I don't know what else to do with it.
Right.
But yeah, like those the blue cards, the ones that you get to activate immediately. I find those very useful towards the end of the game, and I'm buying those only because of their one-time usage a lot of times.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bob was using the scoring cards for the tags. That's another thing you can do.
Yeah,
and it's we hate it when there's multi-purpose cards in games. What a bummer.
So many decisions.
It was so good.
Good stuff. All right, good list. Do you guys want to do a recap of your 5 real fast, and then we'll get into honorable mentions?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. So my number 5 was Solar Titans, because I think Stephanie was just asking about small box games. So yes, I've got a bunch of small box games. Solar Titans, Tim for scale, right here. It's not that big. Really fun and fast paced. Then I've got Space Lion number 4, Lane Battler, also a smaller box, same size boxes like Mission Control, which is not my number 3, because my number 3 is Escape from Aliens in Outer Space, also small box, actually probably close to this size. Super fun, hidden movement, hidden trader game. Number 2, Mission Control. And number 1, Catan Starfarers, despite the wormhole looping to the other side of the board and ruining people's experiences. So yeah, that's mine.
My number 5 was Space Alert, co-op programming, co-op Robo Rally in space. My number 4 was Eclipse, which is just the best 4X game there is. Eclipse, New Dawn of the Galaxy. Number 3 was Battlestar Galactica, which is a treacherous space epic, social deduction based on the IP, and just, very good experience all around. Number 2, Roll for the Galaxy, which I will reiterate is better, in my opinion, than Race for the Galaxy, and you get to just roll a couple of dice every turn, and you just get to add more and more. And then number 1, Terraforming Mars, which is just fantastic.
I love it. So is it a coincidence in Terraforming Mars? Can't you slam like the smaller moon into the planet to like force things to happen.
Asteroids. You're slamming asteroids to cause oceans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't connect the dots on that.
That's weird. Didn't connect the asteroid to the planet.
No.
How about you, Mike?
My number 5 was Dark Moon. Number 4, Lunar Rush, Hidden Gem. Definitely check it out. Star Wars Rebellion. Number 2, Planet Unknown. And number 1, Dune Imperium.
Nice.
Wonderful lists, guys. Wonderful lists.
So many that didn't go mentioned.
Yeah, well,
let's talk about them.
So, like, look, I have Battlestar Galactica was one of the first games I wrote down. I was like, if this doesn't get mentioned, I will take that one and I will mention it. But I knew it was going to get mentioned. So good. Star Wars Rebellion, obviously, was going to say, but I didn't have to because I knew Mike loved it. Last Light is really, really, really good. It's a fun, lighter 4X that I've enjoyed playing every time. I love Twilight Imperium, but I kind of like Twilight Inscription more, the roll and write version. And I don't like roll and write games that much, but Twilight Inscription I just love that game. Really neat in the way you assign, you activate a board and then you assign the dice to them. It's really good. Anyways, I still love Clank in Space. It's not my favorite Clank. Actually, I like Clank Catacombs the most right now, but I know a lot of people love Clank in Space. Really good. There's a game called Quantum. It's a little older, and your ships are like 6-sided die. And so depending on the pip value of your ship, tells you what kind of ship it is and what it can do. But your ships can morph. So you can like take actions to like change your ships into different ships. It's really cool. And then Forbidden Stars is a big, clunky, heavy, Warhammer 40K space, territory control, tech trees, you're building up your stuff game. Beyond the Sun, Mike, I thought you might have that one on there.
Honorable mention.
I haven't played it enough. We call it Tech Tree the game, but Beyond the Sun, you're just building up those tech trees. Really good. And I'll just say 2 more and then I'll let everybody else talk. There's a game that I just played recently called Drop Drive. And it's like the board is you put up this little wall. So you have this enclosed area, and then you drop all the little planets and debris in there, and then you take your ship and you drop your ship in, and then your ship flies around and you're like scooping up stuff and you're getting to different planets and pick up and deliver. But then there's space pirates that are coming to get you. It's really fun, really light, and kind of interesting, like very tactile game. And then the last one I'll mention, because I don't think it's out yet, so I didn't want to put it on my list, but it had a successful Kickstarter, and that's Cities of Venus from 10 Robot Games, where you've got these your player board is like your space station, over Venus, and you literally are like you're sliding your cards in there. So then you've got different things available based on like the card you slide into your player board and like what's revealed. And you're taking all these really, like lots of tough choices as you're trying to, run an effective space station as things keep going wrong. But anyways, those are a bunch of my honorable mentions. Happy to talk about whatever you guys got too.
I'll throw a few. I don't have as long a list. I had some that I have played long ago, long time ago, but didn't really resonate as well. The ones that I would add to your list. So there's both Space Cadets and Space Cadets Dice Duel.
Mm-hmm.
Space Cadets was like everyone's rolling dice. It was a co-op, and everyone's rolling dice, and you're trying to use the dice to solve different patterns depending on what different stations had different things they had to do with the dice. And then they created Space Cadets Dice Duel, which was, have you ever played Captain Sonar?
Oh yeah.
It's almost like a predecessor to that. It's like team versus team, rapid fire. Captain Sonar is more strategic and you're listening and stuff. Dice Duel is just you're madly rolling your dice as quickly as possible and you're trying to like get weapons ready and move your ship around and attack the other ship.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
just frenzied dice rolling, team versus team action. It's really good. Galaxy Trucker is fun.
I
Lots
love
of
Galaxy
fun.
Trucker. Yes.
I love the concept of like, it's another Vladich battle, right? Love the concept of build this amazing ship and then see how it falls apart.
Oh, it gets beat to hell by the end. It's so fun.
Yeah. One of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, the original X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, I still have. And I play with probably once every year or two. I'll bring it out and play with the kids. But like just having it has the little templates to move your ships around, your different ships around, and it's lots of fun. And then the last one I'll leave you with, I think they just did, or they're coming out with sort of a modern reprint of it using an app. But the original was by, I think it was published by Cheap Ass Games, if I'm remembering correctly. It's Lightspeed. And it's basically a deck of cards. Each person gets like 10 ships, and they're numbered 1 through 10. And you're madly dropping them on a table, and each card has a ship and either one or a line out the front, a laser out the front, lasers to the sides, like this. And then after everyone's dropped their ship, as soon as one person's dropped their ship down, everyone has to stop, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I think you start with number 1, all of the number 1 ships fire, and sort of like you'll get a ruler and you're like, where did the lasers from number 1 hit? And then you can see they'll deal damage to some of the other ships. So like the number 10 can take 4 damage, but basically you're like seeing how many ships kill each other. And I think they're doing a new version of this where the app will dictate where the lasers are shooting and stuff. But I think it's just fun with a ruler. And anyways, it just fits in your pocket. It's lots of fun. Quick and light. Lightspeed.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds interesting. Yeah. Nice. Hi, Reed.
Hey, Reed.
We definitely haven't said your name a handful of times.
Nope. I have not talked about you at all.
Didn't even reference that you pick space games also. Couple honorable mentions. Beyond the Sun, I actually did like quite a bit. I ranked very, very highly. I started playing it on BGA, and I think the replayability suffers a little bit because it starts to feel like you've seen the same text over and over, and you're sort of playing like a tech tree versus territory control mini game. So I know they added an expansion that I'm eager to try, because after a few BGA games, I'm like, okay, I need to see a little more variance in that one, but I do really like what that game does. Gaia Project. I cut my teeth on Terra Mystica, and that's the one I've played quite a bit. But I've played Gaia Project a few times on BGA, and it's definitely the better game.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely the better game. The tracks are just more meaningful. Instead of it being like just you get those purple power cubes that give you extra actions, instead of really only gaining those out of the trees, you get like special abilities and more resources, and it becomes a lot more impactful. But that is another game where I will not play it too. It is not a good 2-player game. It's questionably good at 3, but the game really shines when you can build adjacent to other players. So you need to force players to be next to each other. You want a crowded map, because when you build adjacent to other players, you get more of that power, which means more extra actions. You're just doing more stuff when you have more players. But Gaia Project is excellent. We actually did recently play the Gale Force 9 Dune, which I thought was fantastic. I know Tim didn't agree quite as much, or maybe it's because him and Bob got partnered together.
What are you saying? I love that game. I don't know what you're talking about. You misread. I loved it. but I played it before. Yeah.
I don't remember what you scored it. Bob was the dissenter of the group, I
Oh yeah.
suppose. But yeah, it was really good. You're just constantly wheeling and dealing in that game, just trying to scheme and things like that. So Dune, Granddaddy Dune is great. I got two more I'll mention. I'm still a big fan of Cosmic Encounter.
Hell yeah, that's a good one.
Love me some Cosmic Encounter. It's been years since I've played it. I'd love to get a game going. But I just love, again, those wheeling and dealing, those interactive games, and trying to figure out who I can trust and all that.
So, Cosmic Encounter obviously is an impactful game to our hobby, and I can see why it's good. The few times I've played it, felt, you know how I think Tim, you described your experience of Dune Imperium.
Oh yeah, you're just preventing everybody else from winning.
It's like some person, like you're trying to get to 6, I think 6 points or 6, whatever it is, 6 discs, and it's like one person will get to 5 and that's it, because now it's like there's no way they're going to get their 6. So basically everyone eventually gets to 5 and then one person wins. And I played it like 3 times and every game went like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that.
There's definitely.
Does it hold up? Is my question. Does it hold up?
It's been a while, and it's actually been a long time since I've played it. I'd love to play it again, because you're right. I'm kind of one of those people that's willing to go, okay, who is willing to partner with me? Like at the very beginning of the game. And whoever does, hey, if you stick to this partnership, I will see to it that we win before this is over.
Yeah.
And I haven't failed on that yet. But you're right. It can be sort of anticlimactic if you're not part of the, the groups that work together. My last one, also not very thematic, but I do love the Crew Planet 9.
Yeah.
It's my favorite trick-taking game.
Great.
It makes me think about trick-taking in a way that no other game does. And I love the cooperative nature of working together and trying to get certain people to win certain tricks with certain cards and throwing off to shed my hand of certain suits. I just think it's fantastic.
Trevor, no. Mike, I have a question for you. Have you read the storyline in the mission book for the Crew?
Not really. No.
Yeah, okay. Nor have, I feel like we started, probably the first couple times we went through the missions.
Right.
We start, and then it's it's very pasted on, but such a good game.
It's if I've played it with people that have played it before, I'm usually just like, all right, guys, which scenario do you want to start with?
Yeah.
Just let's pick a starting off point. I still start from the very beginning if I'm playing with new players, though.
The what is it? The Crew Deep Sea mission, Deep Sea or something like that? Has it replaced the original for you?
The quest cards are a lot more unique.
Yeah.
So instead of it just being, hey, you gotta get the trick with this card, there's a lot more situational stuff in there, which I like. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, oh, you've got to win you've got to win 2 tricks that have pink cards and 2 tricks that have. It's just a lot more variance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like more variance in games. So it's the same thing with more options. Yeah.
I think for us as well, it's more.
Do you play it at 2?
I don't know.
Ever tried it at 2?
I don't think I've tried the Crew at 2. Can you play it at 2?
Yeah, the first one technically had a variant to pull that off, but then Deep Sea, they actually included an official 2-player variant in the book, which I have not tried. You basically deal out 4 hands, so you don't know that's the cards that are in the game. That just sounds weird to me. I've never tried it.
That would make it worse, because my problem with the Crew is that you literally get into situations where you cannot win. And you play, and you just, Well, I guess all that was for nothing.
It was unsolvable, yeah.
And that frustrates
happen.
the hell out of me, personally. But
I mean, it doesn't happen often, but yes, one of the 5 tricks we played with Tim one time, we did have one that was unsolvable.
we were doing so well.
Is it at the end you went back and sort of laid all the cards out and tried to suss out if there was a better way of doing it? Like if
with the last round, I forget what exactly happened, but it was basically, I believe I was the player that needed the thing, and I just knew from my hand that it couldn't happen. And I was like, guys, I don't think we can do this. And it's like, well, let's try, blah, blah, blah. And we played and it didn't happen. And then, we all kind of like, look, what was I supposed to do? Right. Everybody looked, and we broke it down. We, it's like, well, even if you would have done X and then he would have done Y and then she does this, like it just wouldn't, like, it was impossible. Like it just would not have worked.
Interesting.
And I just found that frustrating. I found that very unsatisfying. And then the other problem I had with the crew is the very first time I played it, I was being taught it very late at night after like a long day of playing board games all day. And I love trick taking games, and this is not really a trick taking game in the, more natural sense. So I could not like grok it just couldn't, my brain couldn't comprehend like what we were trying to do, properly. And so, but then I tried it again and I was playing it with Mike. We were at like a small convention local, and we had a group, and I'm like, you know what? I'll try it again. I've been meaning to try it again because I know the first time I played it was not like very optimal circumstances, and I was really enjoying it. Or I should say I was liking it a lot more and actually appreciating it. Right. And then we hit that roadblock and I was like, oh, well, that sucks. I'd still play it again, but but for me, it would just never be a go-to for me because of that. But
that's fair.
I mean, a hand only takes 5 minutes, but yeah, you're right.
Listen, man. I can play Dead Man's Draw. I can play a ton of other games that will scratch that itch, and I can still have a very satisfying experience. Skull King. Yeah, you're right, Mike. A hand only takes 5 minutes, but I can score a bunch of points and actually have a chance of winning. So sure.
Good stuff. And then, of course, a bunch of honorable mentions that we already talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Zaya, of course.
Oh, my God. I love Zaya is my go-to epic 4X game. Like, that's the one for me. Zaya, Legend of a Drift System.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up customizable chips. And, there's tons of randomness, which bothers some people. For me, I enjoy. But you can also, basically cap off like how long you want your game to go, by setting the, what everybody's playing to. So yeah, you can. Oh, I got an ally. I've got an ally. Yes, Reed. I knew I liked you. And yeah, come on, Jim. I'm a grumpy old Gen Xer. But you know how it goes. Like, we've all played games where your first experience or maybe even your first couple experiences were not great, and then it's kind of hard sometimes to overcome that, and
100%. 100% happens a lot also in like, especially in like if you play test, I find.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like you'll play something. This isn't being recorded, is it? I'm kidding. Like I mentioned earlier, like I played Rising Sun, and
very early, yeah.
And I played one of the very first early versions, and it was broken and unsatisfying, and it took me a really long and like me and Eric afterwards were like chatting about like fixes and things that he could do, and like he obviously turned it into a somewhat decent game. I think it's done well for itself. You might have heard of it. And but it took me a while to like really be able to enjoy playing that game, because again, it's like early plays of games, if they don't go well, they kind of leave a taste that, right?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, and
So,
and
the same,
the nice thing
obviously,
is the crew is it does only take a couple minutes. So going and being open to trying it again was not like the end of the world or anything.
Yeah.
Where Rising Sun, I believe Mike played and had a very bad experience. I've played it. I mean, I've got it all the Kickstarter stuff for it because I really enjoy a lot of Eric Lang games, like most of the people. But anyways, I didn't have those very sour experiences early on to, turn me off of the game.
No, and I've
I
played
actually did have a bad play of Rising Sun. I was using one of the expansion factions, which are objectively much harder to strategize for and play. And I'm playing with a bunch of sharks. I think I scored like 13 points that game, and everybody else is in the 40s and 50s. It was brutal. I felt like I could not do anything the entire game. But
Yeah.
bought it.
No, like and like in my friend group, there like it's definitely one of the more popular games, and I've played it, and it's a good game, right? Like I enjoy it. It's just one of those things where it's like you have if your first play of a game is not fantastic, it's hard to come back from that, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's got a 2 to 3 hour time commitment, and it's like, oh man, what didn't have a 2 to 3 hour time commitment, but I had a horrible first time playing was Foundations of Rome. And Bob is just outing himself because
That's the super fancy one with like all 3D pieces.
Yeah. I really don't like it, even though I really like Emerson Matsuuchi games, but not that one.
Isn't it just Acquire, but like with nicer pieces?
I don't know. I haven't played Acquire. Mike, is it like Acquire?
Oh my gosh.
Have you?
I actually have not played Acquire. No.
Goodness. All
I
right.
wanted to get that reprint.
Time for a history lesson there, gentlemen.
No
There's a
doubt.
lot of classics I've kind of skipped over, and I'm not like, oh, I better go buy that game. I'm kind of like, well, somebody's gonna just want to teach that game to me eventually, So
Space game. I love that.
Nix is on it.
Thank you.
He is on it.
Space game.
Yeah, Bob, you are a bad teacher sometimes, but you are getting better.
Yeah, no, Acquire is fantastic.
Yeah,
really
I've only
love
ever heard good
Acquire.
things.
Yeah, I know we were really pushing to try to get a copy of that Renegade reprint last year, which looks gorgeous.
Oh, the expert is weighing in again. Your wife, like mine, much smarter than me, and definitely has a good handle on what's going on. She's got some good insight there, and a little bit more going on. Okay, so Foundations of Rome has a little bit more, but yeah, I did not like. I really, really, really was hyped for Foundations of Rome. Again, I like a lot of Emerson Matsuuchi design games, and when I was playing it, I first of all was kind of like, that's it. Like when I was playing it, and then at the same time, Bob was destroying us, and then actively taking. We were playing with expansions. We were playing with like all the modules, and so he's like, not only is he already winning, but he's like stealing things from me, and stealing objective cards. I'm like, Bob, really? You're going to steal like the one thing I can score points on? And he's like, well, you're going to get like 10 points off of that. I'm like, yeah, but you're winning by 40. So my 10 points doesn't do anything, and he's like, well, yeah, so I've given the game another shot, and it just doesn't do anything for me at all. I don't like it.
So what are you doing with your copy?
I don't own one.
All right, because
I would have.
I don't even
traded
know.
it.
I think they only did a deluxe version, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Which is quite the business decision. I guess enough people were willing to spend $400 on a 60-minute game.
There is talk about a cardboard like standardized version.
Right.
Though.
But how will
it's called New York 1901. You can just play that.
I didn't even like that one that much. I got rid of that one.
I think I still have mine somewhere. Maybe I don't. Maybe I gave mine away.
Yeah, I'm a big
Oh,
fan
no,
of
I got it.
foundations. I like trading in games, and so like buying
Oh,
properties that I
no,
know.
there's not trading in that game. There's just straight up stealing.
Well, there is stealing is one of the mechanics. Yes,
I do not like
trading
forced
is the
trading.
other mechanics involved in that game, and strategically buying properties you know other people want is just something I really like in gaming.
Yeah, it's the forced they call it trading when you well, here I'm going to give you this $2 coin, but now I get your property, and it's like like that's not even reasonable compensation. Like, just take it from me. Don't give me your pittance as you rip me off and ruin my game. Like, no, it's beautiful. I just
It's
hate
so
it.
beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful, and I could see it like I would hope the people that have it have it out, right? Like have it out on it rather
Like,
than just on a shelf.
it should be art. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And if I owned a copy, I would probably just hold on to it just for the
Oh yeah. No, and there's no question that the production value draws people in and
incredible.
and it's an accessible game, so it draws people, non-gamers, in who can then actually play a game
and feel very,
Yeah.
you know, like they feel very satisfied because they're able to do stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and feel like and again, that tactile, you know, like we have built this whole city, you know, by the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful, but
and a space game. So
yeah,
to,
Rome is in Italy. Italy's in Europe. Europe's on Earth, and Earth is in space. We're just zooming out.
right.
But yeah, that's yeah. I guess, you know, it's fun to sort of have hot takes on games that people love that you don't, and
Of
vice
course.
versa. You know, there's definitely games that I love that everybody in my group hates, and I don't care. I'll wear it. You know, I'll own it. But yeah, sometimes there's just those really popular, really amazing looking games that just don't land with you, and everybody will be like, "It's so good," and you're just that one jerk that's like, "No, it isn't." You know, just way off to the side. While I play Terraforming Mars solo because I want to play it with anybody else. But oh well. Hopefully, hopefully this list has been fun for you. Hopefully, you've had a good time being on with us, as I play Grumpy Old Man to Mike's, you know, not Grumpy Old Man.
Yeah, I mean, I if nothing else, I came away with a few games that I have to go and buy now. So you know,
yeah,
mission accomplished.
Same. Oh wait, thanks, Bob.
I think I'm gonna start with Escape from Aliens in Outer Space.
Oh my gosh, you have to let me know what you think when you play it. I enjoy it. Again, it can be sort of group dependent. You've got to have people that you know want to play. You know, and but take a minute and make sure everybody kind of understands, you know, like what some of the cards do, so that nobody's asking awkward questions later on. You're a game designer. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You know these things. But in my experience, that was one thing. It was like, okay, let's everybody just really be clear. Ask all your questions now.
Yeah, because once you know your role,
yeah. Because we've had it go sideways, and it's like, okay, re-rack, we'll all play again. But yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad we got a couple, you know, maybe turn you on to a game or two.
Absolutely.
I 100% checking out Lightspeed, and then Space Alert is the Vlada Chivado one. Yeah. And then Eric said one in the chat that I really want to play, and I have an opportunity. There's a convention I'm going to that's got like a flea market, and so I might score a cheap copy of So You've Been Eaten. That was a game that was on Kickstarter. I really wanted to play, but I haven't played it. Have you played that one, Yuval?
No.
Okay, so it was on his list.
But I love the title.
I know, right? You know, and I think
Yeah.
you're getting eaten by like a
I
space
know
creature,
nothing
and you're
about
like,
the game.
and you're like mining the stuff out of the creature as you're like traveling through its intestines. And so I really want to play it. I love the theme, and it's got a kind of a cool art style. So
He mentioned Cosmoctopus too, which I
I
didn't
want to
even
play that.
think of as a space game, but I did play that one, and it's pretty solid.
Oh,
I
you did
like
play that one? Okay, yeah.
I did.
He mentioned.
Lucky
Oh,
Duck, right?
yeah. I think
Duck
yeah, that
game?
is Lucky Duck. Yep. He also said Artemis Project. I've played Artemis Odyssey. I really like that one. It's sort of the successor. That was a Grand Gamers Guild. He liked the crew, and then he said relative space, but I know why he said relative space because that's his baby. Cryo. Donnie said Cryo.
Oh yeah, that's a Luke Laurie design. So it uses a very similar
Oh, yeah,
mechanic to
for
some of his
sure.
other games with worker placement and recall engines. But yeah, Yuval, if you can make that work, it's what weekend is that? It's the weekend before Syracuse, QSCon. That's all I can tell you. 20th, September 20th. That's
Let's
when we're
see.
heading up to Toronto.
So there you go. There's a Space Alert, Galaxy Trucker. They've got Race. Oh, but also
Oh,
Escape
yeah.
from the Aliens in Outer Space.
Yeah,
Solid choices.
we are making a detour. We are going from northern Indiana to
Yeah.
Syracuse, New York. We're going to go out of our way slightly, go up to Michigan to Toronto, and then make our way back down to Syracuse.
Yeah. That's like a sliver of Canada, but we won't hold that against you.
No, he's basically seen the whole thing. Once you just go
Whole
through
thing.
there, you see the whole
I've
thing.
seen a few other slivers, I'll have
I
you
heard
know.
somebody speak French. I saw a moose and a hockey game.
I've seen a sliver in Windsor, and I've seen a sliver in Vancouver. And I've seen the very, very open sliver on the opposite side of Minnesota. So,
yeah, no, if the timing works out, that would be great. Happy to.
Awesome.
No moose in Toronto. Do you guys have Mounties in Toronto? No, probably not. No, right? Too urban.
I loved Vancouver when I was there. I was there last year. What a fantastic city.
See, I'm going to be crushed because I grew up watching like SCTV and the movie Strange Brew. And if I go to Canada and it's not that, I'm going to be very disappointed. I want a big old creepy brewery, guys wearing toques. And okay, hey, you hoser. Like if I don't get called a hoser while I'm there, I'm just going to be very sad. So.
Yeah, it won't happen in Toronto. Sorry.
Too metropolitan. Is that?
Yeah. You might need to go. I don't know, further away out of the city.
Bucket list is to get out to Banff.
Tubes don't come out in September. September people will be in shorts.
You need 90s Canada for hosers. Love it.
Bucket list. I'm several years away, but I want to get up to Banff.
Oh, yeah.
I really want to get up there, see the Canadian Rockies.
Do you ski?
I don't ski. No, I've went once and it was painful.
Okay, so don't ski.
I was on my butt too much.
You don't want to learn to ski on the Rockies.
Yeah, I was struggling with bunny hills, and that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I do
That's
believe.
Funny.
I think there's a moose in the zoo, but I'm not actually sure.
Nice. Well, guys, don't forget How to Save the World is hitting Kickstarter May 21st. And
May
also
21.
And don't forget that we will be streaming a tabletop simulator play of it Sunday, May 19th. So if you want to know how it plays, we're going to get there. I do too. I haven't played it yet. So.
Also, before that happens, I believe maybe even this week, our video will be out. Our preview video will be out. And I'm just going to say, if you want to see us all have a great time playing a game without Mike, there's your opportunity. I just love lording it over Mike that I got to play a really cool game before him. And I know
that's cool and all. I'm gonna play it with the designer, so that's
yeah,
fine. That's fine.
whatever. Shut up. We got to experience it without feeling obligated that we had to say we liked it. See, you gotta the whole time you've always just gonna be watching you, like your face, scrutinizing every face that you make while you.
Why is he so quiet?
Yeah.
Why is he talking so much?
Not enough.
But I will tell everybody, if you've liked anything that Burn Island Games have put out, like the production value, the quality, like all of that is there. Even just the prototype stuff we saw, right? Like still though, like just the colors all pop. Bob, our colorblind expert, because he has, colorblind limitations, like no issues with any of the stuff, which is always great. It's really awesome when we get a really beautiful looking, even prototype and we don't have issues, right? It's just really smooth. It was really easy to learn out of the rule book. It was very smooth. You did a wonderful job. I'm not blowing smoke. The game's really cool. I think people are going to really like it.
Thank you. Yeah, really proud of it. And they, completely agree. Like the color palette that they used is exciting and different for a space game.
Yes.
And I actually asked them about the colorblind piece, and they were like, "Yep, we designed from the ground up with colorblind friendly in mind." So
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah,
and like all of the deluxe stuff will be screen printed, I think. So you'll also have like even more differentiation between the bits and stuff, which in the prototype you wouldn't see that. So
now maybe you don't know, but I'll ask you anyways, because I think we talked about it while we were playing. Was there any talk, or are there any plans for like dual layered stuff, like the tracks with the cubes and all that?
Yeah, the player boards will all be dual layered.
Oh my god, the one thing I think that we were like, oh well, that could have been this, you just fixed, so never mind.
The player boards are all dual layered.
Oh, so good.
Maybe even triple layered or quadruple layered. I don't know. But
Bob's falling out of his chair. The more layers you add to those player boards.
17 layer boards.
It's amazing. Each player board comes in a Foundations of Rome sized box.
Yeah.
I will say real quick, one other thing that we all loved and thought was super cool was like the way that the comic, was so cool, such a neat aesthetic. Mike, you'll see it eventually, but it was so cool. We were like, what? This is...
I gotta tell you, I saw that for the first time at PAX Unplugged in December, and I just fell off the chair. It was so good. And so like it's unique. Like you have a piece that's sticking off the board, but it works, right? Like it just works. So yeah. Basically, Mike, the comet or the asteroid has a long tail, and the tail is like sticking off the board, and then it slowly moves.
It covers up the scoring track nobody's going to get that far before endgame anyways. So it's like, oh, that looks really weird. Like, is that right? And we're like, that's right. And then the way that that it progresses on the board, it's very cool. Again, it's really fun when you get to play these kind of games that you haven't seen, like they do stuff you haven't seen in other games. Like you might, there's so many games now, right? And especially if you play a ton of games, you're always going to be like, well, it has this and it has this, but like, it's still different, and it felt really unique. So it was super cool, man. It was super cool.
Thank you.
But I'll stop kissing your butt. The game was great. We loved it. And I'm really glad that you wanted to come on our show and hang out with us tonight.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was lots of fun chatting. And I'll see you guys on the 19th.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, will you be at Origins or Gen Con or both?
I will be at Origins for sure. Gen Con is up in the air. I'll be at PAX U for sure. And I don't know what other events I have planned for the year, but those are Origins and PAX U for sure.
Right on.
Confirmed.
We'll definitely see you at Origins.
I'll look for you.
Cool.
Play a game.
Oh, we don't like to play games. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, you want to sign us off?
Yep. It's been awesome, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for the board game rundown. I've been Mike.
I've been Tim.
And I'm Yuval.
Yes. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
We'll see you guys.
Good
next
job,
time.
Stonemeyer.
A 7.3 repeating. Heating.